Yo. Bring back the Let's Read Funny stories. Yeah, they're pretty funny. I do miss those. They were like a mix of Family Guy and the Chappelle Show. It's the Let's Read. Feels like I started listening as a kid. Now I got my eye on a 2020 Kawasaki chopper bike. Hell yeah, dude. Keep that shit locked up because they come and foe it. The World Reading Championships. That would be kind of sick. What would be the rules for like a narration contest? I feel like they would have to have judges. You'd have like Andy Sudeikis and Morgan Freeman and me after I win. What's up? What's up? Jolie Poly Woly. About to walk home in the pitch black darkness from my job. I feel bad for anything that encounters me. That's true. At the very least, you should be the one that people fear. Happy Tuesday. Oh, which reminds me, the new podcast went up, right? I'm always like behind on that shit for some reason. It's like I forget that it exists. I'm like, oh yeah, I run a podcast. What the fuck am I doing? Oh yeah, it's popping off. Pretty baller. Available on all major podcasting platforms. Playing Zelda right meow. Yeah, I pre-ordered the new Mario game. What's it called? Like Mario Wonder. What's the countdown for? Is in that at the end of that, I'm gonna be switching up the vibe and we're gonna read some spooky stories that I will record for tomorrow's video. I always remind you of what day it is. That's okay. Yeah, I always forget. I need my computer to tell me. But yeah, we got some hiking stories tonight, specifically ones that take place in the fall, so it should be the perfect mood. Round one is a gurgle competition. Who can gargle the most balls? It's so funny. I remember somebody in stream said like, hey, my mom said I couldn't listen to you anymore, so I just want to say goodbye. I thought that was really funny. I mean, it's sad, but then I think they commented on a more recent video, like the last one, and said like, I'm not supposed to be watching you, but here we are, or something. And I was just thinking about like, I never thought that I would like grow up to be the piece of content that like other parents don't let their kids watch, which is just so fucking funny. The little girl's voice in a recent video. Yeah, that was Freya. That's my friend's daughter, and she wanted to be in a video, and I was like, hell yeah, let's go. Get in there. Say whatever you want. Controlling parents are weird. Yeah, I mean, I kind of get it, because like some of the content in general is very dark, especially the true crime stuff. And then I imagine if you like came into a live stream and I'm just sitting there talking about like farts and jizz, or I don't know, just making some not so kosher joke. A parent's gonna hear that offhanded and be like, "Who the hell was that? Who's that supposed to be?" No, nothing. It's just Let's Read. He's like PG-13. Doesn't sound very PG-13 to me. Is there actually a scary story? In 14 minutes, you're going to hear 8 of the scariest hiking stories you've ever heard in your life. It's going to blow your frickin' mind, dude. Jill's going to be a tiger mom, yeah. And by that, it means I'm going to raise an actual tiger. Tiger. I help your mental health. That's good. I rattle your brain around till you feel better. You'll start the scary stories interchanged with F-bombs in 14 minutes exactly. I'll assume none of them are missing 411 cases. I don't believe tonight's are missing 411 related. But we'll have to look more into those. Can't go wrong with a little missing no. Also, I think I figured out my new sort of schedule. Not so much, it's always going to be Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but I'm thinking Mondays will be theme video, Wednesdays will be theme video, and then Fridays will be Reddit videos. Because I noticed that, like, when, you know, a Monday always usually does well with like a theme video, related video. Wednesdays I would do Reddit, and that would do pretty okay. But then Fridays was always kind of hit or miss when it was a theme video on a Friday. But I'm noticing when I do a Friday video with Reddit, it seems to do pretty okay, and then consistently do okay till Monday. So I think that creates like a healthy feedback loop for like YouTube's algorithmic system. Do you have your daily glass of milk? I actually do. I have some warm muscle milk right here. I'm missing 401ks, yeah. BlackRock. It's weird, I legit listen to your stories as I try to sleep at times. No, that's good. That's like 95% of my audience. I never noticed the pattern, I'm just here for the vibes. Well, that's good, yeah. I think from my perspective, I have to just hyper fixate on every little detail on the channel, trying to like hone in on what I can do to find more success. Freya is a goddess. Yeah, it's like a god of war slash fertility, I think, from like Norse mythology. I think Norse mythology. But then it was so funny because then like her sister's name is Lena, or Marcelina, her little sister, and then I was like just curious about the origins of that name, and then it like actually goes all the way back to the name like Mars, which is the god of war. So I'm like, oh my god, both sisters are tangentially related to gods of war. So I'm like, I wonder if that like has some sort of significance, or they even realized it. Probably. Muscle MILF. That's me. That's me, dude. That's kind of what I'm looking for in life. It also shows you care, which is nice. Yeah. Like, I often think to myself, I'm like, damn, I guess I could, like, you know, be a YouTuber that just sort of takes advantage of just, I don't know, posting once a week and not give a fuck. But I'm not saying that people like that don't give a fuck, but like, I have the opportunity where I guess I could just like kind of coast along and, but I don't know, like, I feel like work in like a human's life is kind of what gives them purpose, or gives them like direction and structure and all that kind of stuff. So like these streams and the videos, like they really do give me a strong sense of structure, because working for yourself is just like really strange. Miles McKay with the 5 says, much love, Adela. Excellent work, and thank you for your stories, man. You're welcome. You are welcome. Thank you, Miles. Good to see you. Back there waiting for the spaghetti water to boil up. In Norse mythology, they're all gods of war. Oh, okay. I guess that makes sense. It was, I suppose, a very war, like god or goddess of war, and okay, like they all warred with each other. I guess that makes sense. Neptune in the background. I think so. Robin made that. He always has some sort of underlining meanings to everything. He's very symbolic. He might come in tonight. What dynasty or time period would you live in and be 23 to 33? Oh man. I don't know. I don't think I know enough about history to just be like the extent of my historical knowledge sometimes is like just random shit I've heard. But you know how like sometimes when you try to like contemplate the entirety of like history, it's like all you really have is like bits and pieces of like dinosaurs, England or something, you know what I mean? Like, Japan, I don't know, just, and then you go back to like the 1900s and you just like know most certain like specifics, but then you know every possible like breeding pattern of Pokemon for no reason. YouTube said you weren't even live until now and been on for 11 minutes. What the fuck? YouTube, please, bro. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I got blacklisted on YouTube's shit. I mentioned BlackRock one time, and suddenly I'm an evil person. Yeah, the notifications are really bad, because I'm fairly certain that they distribute them the same way that they distribute new videos. Like, you might not be notified of a new video of somebody you subscribe to until like 2 or 3 hours later, but on a live stream, that just doesn't cut it whenever, you know, it's kind of time sensitive. David, thank you for the 1. Is that his glowing flashlight? Where's that? Yes. It's just floating around, and anytime I need it, I'm like a gorilla in a cage. I've got very limited wants and desires. Just a nice book and something to jizz inside of. Checked 5 minutes ago. Somehow I feel late even though I ain't. Yeah, we've only been going for 13 minutes and 36 seconds. Your friend wants to say hello. Hello, friend. I've been binging your older videos like back to back because I recently discovered you and I haven't caught up with the other YouTubers' videos that I watched. Nice, I appreciate that. That's the nice thing about my content is, I think they call that evergreen. Have you heard that term before? Where certain content is like able to generate views and revenue like long after its relevancy or release date has passed. Because like some people might not really go back and watch like an old ass Phil DeFranco video just because, you know, it's all fucking old ass news stories or whatever. Or just anybody, I don't know, like a Keemstar video, it's like old drama. Nobody really wants to go back and check out old drama. The nice thing is with like my channel, I feel like you can go back and listen to all of it. And it's still pretty much the same shit. You become one of my favorite narrators along with Lighthouse Horror. Love you both. Thank you. Yeah, Lighthouse is great. I love what he did. I love what he did with the place. It's beautiful. There's a place I just found out called Faux Real. That was so funny. Wait, what is it? Watching since 2017. That's awesome. It's crazy. It's crazy that like doesn't sound too long ago, but then it was 6 years ago. Like, what the fuck? Because I realized, like, I don't know. Like, for some people, that's the difference of like middle school to like college, you know? Which is such a huge change in someone's like psyche and perception of reality. But for like, once you pass like the age of 23, it's like shit just doesn't really fucking change that much unless you really make it change. Unless you get bit by like a radioactive homeless guy. It'd be funny to get bit by a radioactive homeless guy and then like you just can't, the bank just doesn't give you a loan for a new home or something. Every time you try to like walk into an establishment, you I don't know, they sweep you away with a broom. Get out of here. Only 244 people. Yeah, the lives, unfortunately, are... It's a little bit of a deviation from, It's a little bit of a deviation from... you know, the typical videos, so... I can't expect everybody to show up. I've lost faith in political news. It's difficult to find an unbiased opinion nowadays. It's best to laugh and watch this kind of content or music. Yeah, I totally feel you. At the end of the... Like, I remember it was around the start of, like... You know, it was like the Trumpian era of, like, 2015, 2016, where, like... I noticed that most people were, like, heavily involved in politics because it felt much more marketable back then. Because there was a period of time before 2015, like in 2014 and prior, where like if you were into politics, you were kind of like a dork a little bit. And then politics under Trump kind of became very mainstream, very, you know, clickbaity, whatever. You know, everything is the end of the world, blah, blah, blah. And you know, you got to have an opinion or you're stinky poop or whatever. But I'm so exhausted from that shit, you know? That like, yeah, I've kind of just don't give a fuck anymore, and just if there's anything political that I consume or anything loosely tangentially related, it's probably like some sort of like better self-betterment bullshit, you know, philosophy stuff, and it's kind of weird. I realize at the end of the day, like, isn't it funny? Like within our news cycle, the only shit that really matters to us, I mean, if anything, the news cycle should represent everything that our culture sort of holds to a high degree. Or maybe it's forced on us and maybe it's like a biased opinion, but right from the get-go, and trying to tell you what's important. But at least at the very least, you can kind of see that the things that you see on the news just encompass entertainment, celebrities and entertainment, and, you know, political bullshit. And it's, or, you know, and it's like pretty much all our society really does is just try to entertain itself for a while, creating things, doing things, and just sort of like chill out, waiting for like the next war, you know? That's all we do. We just sit there and play video games like, all right, when's World War III happening? You know? Now, presumably you would hope that people would be like, if they wanted you to go do World War III, you would be like, I don't really want to do that. But I'm sure you would probably be involved in World War III without actually realizing that World War III is even going on. Maybe via proxy or some shit. It is what it is, man. We only get like one fucking chance on this earth. And it's strange. It's so strange that there's so many people that just want to make it uncomfortable for everyone all the time. You're just waiting for Modern Warfare 3. Yeah, exactly. Sometimes it's like easiest to kind of like create historical landmarks in your life based off of new video games releasing. I used to do that for a while till video games kind of started not being as great. It's like Rome with the circus. Yeah, it pretty much is. I don't think it has as much effect on people lately as it used to. But it still has to go through its like typical motions and all that kind of stuff. I should probably plug this mouse in. Sorry about the sound. Waiting on the FNAF movie. Hell yeah, dude. Is everyone ready for spooky season? I'm pretty ready for it. And we're about to set the spooky mood here. Still playing Zelda game, Tears of the Kingdom. It's better to keep my mind busy. I have not reached yet the Gerudo area. Have you watched the movie Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark? You know, I didn't. I wasn't sure. I didn't hear like great things about it, but was it pretty good? Joel soup. If you guys had a ladle, would you get a scoop of that? Be sure to get some of the shit that's floating around in there. David De La Rosa with the 2. Thank you, my friend. I look back at the stage of my life, telling which games and systems I was playing at the time. Yeah, it's funny. I mean, video games are powerful. Divine, feminine with the 5 says, hi, hope you're doing all right. Thank you, Divine. Good to see you. Hope you're doing good, too. You work at a theater, you're not ready for FNAF to come out, you're so scored. You're going to be jump scared just from the sounds coming out of the theater. And then you, like, go to open the doors to go clean up, and, like, I don't know if you remember in The Shining when, like, a big, like, wave of blood came out of the elevator, but in this situation it would be like poop, because everyone was like got the shit scared out of them. Oh, there's Pradeep. Hi, buddy. My cat is here and he's licking his feet. He loves feet, dude. He's so weird. Narrator bathwater. If you ever do another scary neighbor stories, I have one that stuck with me since a kid. Yeah, send it in. I can search back through and find it over Reddit, reddit.com/r/letsreadofficial, or letsreadsubmissions@gmail.com. I wish I knew how to keep Halloween exciting and fun. Too old to trick-or-treat, and Halloween parties are just not my thing. Yeah, I'd probably need to, like, do something that's customized to yourself, which probably you would need to, like, write stories, if that makes sense. Like, create things in your head, because, like, there's a lot of power in, like, creation, and you can do, it's all specific to you, which is cool. And then the cool thing about, like, being a creator is that, like, even if otherwise you would not be, like, socially involved, for some reason, like, whenever you make content and make interesting things that other people like, it creates, like, a bond between two humans that then you can sort of interact with them, and, you know, it feels normal. So yeah, maybe you just need to create stories or some shit, or maybe make some art. I'm sick, Joel. Since Saturday, I had minor chills and runny nose. About everything you can think of. Drink water, cough medicine, Vicks, whiskey, tea. Don't buy whiskey. I feel better, though I still with the runny nose. Yeah, sadly, those symptoms take sometimes a week or two to subside, even after the viral load is out and about and suppressed. Okay. Anyways, we got 8 chat stories. Let's do it. Let me make sure my microphone is clear. Almost a year to the day of me writing this, I experienced one of the worst and most traumatic experiences of my entire life. Please bear with me as I try to tell this story the best I can. I'm not the greatest writer, unfortunately. I think this may be the first time I've written anything since I was in high school. My best friend and I decided to go on a hike. The weather was not ideal. It was raining and cold, and personally I love the rain. Mix that with the beautiful autumn trees and I'm all in. It was also a Tuesday afternoon, and we figured everyone would be working on a Tuesday. We found a trail that would interest us, and we made the 40-minute drive. When we arrived, we instantly got excited. There wasn't one car parked there, and we knew that it was going to be slow due to the weather and the weekday, but we didn't expect it to be this empty. The idea of having the entire forested area to ourselves was an awesome one, and we were pumped. A few minutes into our hike, a friend noticed something weird. I didn't notice anything, but he was looking through the trees like he saw a person or something. I asked what it was, and he pointed roughly 20 feet away and said, "Right there. Tell me that doesn't look like a person. It's like a face staring right at us." After a few seconds, I saw what he was talking about. It was weird, and it did look like a person. We kept walking on the trail because whatever the weird face was that we saw, it wasn't moving. I told him that it was most likely so. It's funny. Queef sweat, what's up? Dude, it's fucking hot down here for some reason. I'm fucking burning up. Maybe because you know why? I just drank a bunch of hot tea. My internals are zooming. Or yeah, I guess that's true too. If you were in like the Halloween mood, maybe. Well, I don't know. That could be a liability. I was gonna say like, if you're into like creepy shit, you could go to a haunted house with a Luigi board, and summon Wario. You bought some orange and ginger lemon kombucha. Nice, dude. How is it? It's a nice replacement for soda. If soda is like your typical like drink. The one thing I noticed too about like certain soda when I'm eating is like if I'm eating like a typical dinner, you know, and I have soda, like diet soda, it really doesn't agree with my stomach and my digestion is not great. But I feel like with kombucha, it's usually pretty chill after. I live in Massachusetts. I've been thinking of starting a channel about all the bars and coffee shops from here. That'd be fun. It'd be a fun, like, little, all sorts of, like, social media you could do on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube. Like, the YouTube videos could be, like, the more expanded versions and stuff. Soda. I told him it was most likely some type of optical illusion. You know, nature's weird like that. As we got closer to the face, it became clear what it was. It was a mask that had been nailed to the tree. It wasn't directly on the path either. If you hadn't noticed it back when he did, you would have never seen it. It blended in with the tree perfectly, and it was surrounded by branches and the few remaining leaves on the tree. We went over. Let me make sure I don't know why the mic just doesn't seem close enough to my face. Do you do throat exercises to prepare for reading? I just drink tea, and that tends to kind of like lubricate things up a little bit for whenever I really get into it, but a lot of it's just like the mental preparation for trying to like read without making mistakeys. You been drinking V8 lately? I remember my dad would always drink V8, but he would drink like the tomato soup V8. And as a kid, you know, who was just drinking Mountain Dew all the fucking time, or like Pepsi or whatever the fuck, I would go to drink the V8 and I'd be like, ugh, tastes like salt. You got your Michael Myers costume on right now? Nice, dude. Is this your maker? Yeah, we're the same person. Ryan Elliott with the 5. Let's celebrate their 5th super on live show. Oh, they do. Oh, that's cool. I didn't. Now they count it, actually. That's pretty sick. Ryan, thank you for your 5th ever super chat. It says your most recent podcast episode had my jaw on the ground the first hour. Hell yeah, dude. It reached out and grabbed your mouth and pulled it all the way down. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad it was eliciting a degree of spooky. You keep hearing tree frogs. Is that in the background music? It is, yeah. It's supposed to be like geared towards sleepy vibes. Low sodium V8 or the pure salt version. I think it must have been the pure salt version before they made anything like that, but it was yucky. I feel like they changed up the formula a little bit. It blended in with the tree perfectly, and it was surrounded by branches and the few remaining leaves on the tree. We went over and examined it just because it was so strange. It was one of those cheap plastic masks. God, saying that fucking shit is rough. It was one of those cheap plastic masks that you can buy anywhere. We took a picture of it just because it was cool, then my friend decided to take the mask down. I told him not to, just in case it was from some kind of Halloween event the park was doing or something, but he didn't care. He pulled it down anyway, and inside the mask he actually found a note. We decided to read it. It read, "Number 1, go behind this tree and continue walking until you find number 2. Now, this really convinced me that this must have been an event for the park. And my friend didn't think so, and he made a good point. The tree was already off the path. They wouldn't want children to wander even further off this path, and I suggested leaving and continuing the hike because it was actually starting to really downpour. But my friend wanted to see if there was something at the location that the mask described. Without listening to me, he followed the directions and continued walking behind the tree. It wasn't close, but we did eventually find something. Maybe 50 or 60 feet into a thick forested area, we found another mask. This time it was practically in the dirt. He lifted the mask up, and sure enough, another weird and very vague note. And to save time, I'll just tell you that this pattern continued for 3 more clues for a total of 5 masks. When we arrived at the last mask, all it said was, "See you soon." It gave us chills, but then we sort of just laughed it off. At the time, I thought it was just because of the weird situation, but I was sure that I could hear noises echoing all around us. I thought that I was just being paranoid, so I just ignored my gut and continued the hike with my friend. A few hours later, we made it back to the car, and were surprised to see another car in the lot now. It was parked right next to me. Way too close, I might add. It was so close that I actually had to move the car up so my friend could open the door and get in. We talked about the masks on the way home, and we came to the conclusion that it was just some elaborate prank, or maybe it was an event. Given the time of the year, it's not unlikely to think that someone would want to try and scare you, you know? I dropped him off at his house and then went home for the rest of the night. In just a few hours, my worst night ever was about to begin. I finished watching the football game that I was watching and started getting ready for bed. It was probably close to 11 if I had to guess. I should also say that I lived alone at the time of the story, and while I was in the bathroom, I thought that I could hear something outside. Ordinarily, I would never look outside. For some reason that night XOXO gossip, Joel. Am I gossiping? What am I gossiping about? Working on some commissions, Tree Flesh? Nice, dude. What you working on? Did everyone like the live? I am always curious if liking the live stream actually does help. You can definitely try it. Here, we'll make the poll that. Start a poll. Will you smash that like button? Yes. No. Start poll. Poll started. JoJo stuff, the anime you'll never start. I started it, but I didn't make it very far. Ordinarily, I would never look outside, but for some reason that night I did, and I still can't believe what I saw. I saw 5 people standing on the front lawn wearing masks. They were the same type of masks from the hike earlier in the day, and I ordinarily looked out of the living room window. Wait, what? I say originally, my bad. They were the same type of masks from the hike earlier in the day. I originally looked out of the living room window. After I saw them, I ran upstairs to my bedroom, and I phoned the police right away. The entire time that I was waiting, I continued watching from my bedroom window, and this was the longest 10 minutes of my entire life. They were being strange, to say the least. They were sort of dancing, maybe moving around. It was almost like they were celebrating or something. Every minute or so they would run to the front door, ring the doorbell a bunch of times, and then run back to the front yard and continue doing their strange movements. Part of me was still telling myself that this was just some elaborate prank, but if it was, in my opinion, it had gone for far too long. The last few minutes before the police arrived, they started to get bolder. Instead of just ringing the doorbell, they started to bang on the door, not just with fists, but with their entire body. The front door was directly below my room, and I could feel all the vibrations each time they slammed into the door. And finally, 10 minutes after I called, I saw lights from the cop cars. When the masked people saw the lights, I saw them scatter. 2 cops attempted to chase them at that moment, but he came back only a minute or 2 later. I talked to another officer and gave her my statement, and nothing ever really came from that incident. The police never caught or arrested anyone, and since I didn't have proof and there were no signs of forced entry, the police basically told me that they couldn't do anything and that I would need to just call if they ever came back. I wasn't satisfied, but what could I do? The next day I bought a Ring camera, and 1 year later, they have yet to come back. I have been able to convince myself that it was just some prank, and that's the only reason why I'm able to still sleep at night. Truthfully, I have no idea if that was a prank or if these folks intended to hurt me. And judging by the sound of the bodies hitting the door, it's hard to know for sure if it was just that. And I just hope that they never come back. Lego Zach Boy with the 5 says, "Hey, how's everyone doing? Good to see you, Lego. Doing good." Too bad they didn't have a BB gun. Shoot him right in the eyeball. Oh yeah, I forgot to turn off my light to enhance the spooky mode. Alright. Hiking story numero 2. As much as I love this time of year, I'm always reminded of one of the worst memories of my entire life. I've always been an outdoorsy type of person. Any chance I had to be outside, I took it. Whether it was hiking, sports, being at the beach, you name it. If it was outdoors, I was there. Now back in high school, which at this point was around 10 years ago now, my parents signed me up for this trip with the school. They were doing this camping and hiking program, and we were going to take a weekend trip to the mountains. I loved the idea for a bunch of reasons, mainly because we were getting out of class on Friday. I was able to talk to a bunch of my friends. Into going as well. I was so excited to spend the weekend in nature with my friends and just sort of not care about the world. Friday came and we hiked a decent chunk of this local mountain. It wasn't that bad, and I honestly think the trail was designed for beginners. And that sounded weird. Book winners. It wasn't that bad, and I honestly think the trail was designed for beginners. Around 5:30, we decided to set up camp. There were probably about 15 students and 3 teachers. Damn, dude, come on. There were probably about 15 students and 3 teachers. The first night, my friends and I, who were all sharing a tent, got in trouble by one of the teachers. There was a strict lights out policy by 10 p.m., and we were still very awake and active at that time. One reason why I was able to convince my friends to go was not just the no school thing on Friday, but because we could play on our sort of Nintendo... Come on, Jesus fuck. Our DSs.
Nintendo DS. Whoa. It's the Nintendo DS.
I remember I worked at a bar as checking IDs when people would walk in and stuff, and you were known as like door staff. And I remember one of the bartenders being like, "Yo, it's Nintendo door staff over there," because I would just sit there and play Pokemon. It was kind of silly. David, thank you for the one. You're about to try McDonald's new limited time sauce, Mambo. Interesting. Now McDonald's is only just doing non-stop limited time bullshit because of the success of Grimace. Everything is limited time until we put it away. One reason why I was able to convince my friends to go was not just the no school thing on Friday, but because we could play with our Nintendo DS's in the tent. Pokemon X and Y versions had just come out and we were all playing together. So if you can't guess, we were loud playing the game. We were loud playing the game. Has anyone watched what Mia Khalifa said on Twitter? What did she say on Twitter? She said she loves Let's Read. She's my biggest subscriber. And if you can't guess, we were very loud playing the game and the teacher made us turn them off. We were upset but listened to them, and I didn't sleep well that night. I could hear all kinds of noises outside of the tent. It could have been an animal, but I thought it was the teacher checking up on us throughout the night. The next morning, I was exhausted, but once we got hiking, I got into a groove and felt pretty good again. During the day, one of my friends suggested that we sneak out of the tents at night. I didn't love the idea because I hated breaking the rules, but I just really wanted to play my new game with my friends. Nightfall came once again, and we told everyone that we were hitting the sleeping bags early. It was around midnight, and I was nearly asleep when my friends woke me up to sneak away. I was groggy for a little while, but the thrill and excitement woke me up eventually. I did realize how stupid it was to sneak out in the middle of the woods at night, but I didn't think about it like that. My logic was that we weren't doing anything that bad or illegal, so the repercussions wouldn't be too severe. We walked a good distance away from the camp so we wouldn't wake anybody up. Most of us had a nearly full charge on our DS, so we said that we'd play until the DS's died and then we'd head back. The first 30 minutes were great. I felt like I was making an awesome memory that I would cherish forever. Unfortunately for me, I was about to make a memory that I would remember forever, but for all the wrong reasons. After that first 30 minutes, we heard rustling in the trees, and we all froze. My first thought was maybe a bear, and I was terrified. I didn't know what I would do. A few seconds later, a person emerged from the trees. It was jarring and unexpected. Hey, B, welcome to the Buttersock Cult. You now have access to bonus content. Thank you. Oh, there's sex bots. What the fuck? It's been a long time. Spaghetti's finally done. It was so easy and I'm still exhausted. I hate cooking. How come you hate cooking? It's kind of like art. You can make it all sorts of ways. It was jarring and unexpected, and honestly just weird. He didn't look at us and he didn't say anything. We were all sitting on some tree branches singing an almost semicircle, and the strange man came to sat in our circle. God fucking damn it. Luigi's Mansion Remaster is coming? Let's go, dude. We were all sitting on some tree branches singing an almost semicircle, and the strange man sat in our circle. The man looked to be maybe in his 40s. He was an average build with mostly dark hair that was slicked back. He seemed to be clean-shaven, but most notably, he was wearing He was clean-shaven, but most notably, he seemed to be wearing some pretty nice clothes. I will say that it was a little worn and dirty, but it was still pretty... worn and dirty, but it was still a pretty nice outfit for a strange man in the woods. None of us said anything, and we kind of just looked at each other, almost paralyzed. We didn't say anything to the man either. He just sat there on the tree stump, essentially looking like... Damn, dude. He just sat there on the tree stump. Damn. He just sat there on the tree stump, essentially looking down at the ground. We all looked at each other and silently agreed to just get up and make our way back to the campsite. We silently counted to 3 and stood up. And as we stood up, the man stood up as well, but still stayed completely still. He didn't look up yet, and he didn't seem to be hostile. It was almost as if though he was sort of just mirroring our movements. His standing up was the final straw for us, though. We freaked out and decided to run as fast as we could back to the campsite. I started, and everyone followed. I looked back a few times and I could see him sort of gently jogging after us. And it was one of the worst things I'd ever seen in my own... Wouldn't it be fucking pitch black out there? They use the light of their DSs to see? I looked back a few times, and I could see that he was lightly jogging after us, at least I think. And this was one of the worst things I'd ever seen with my own eyes. This sort of just emotionless man in the middle of the woods, seemingly chasing after us but not really trying at the same time. And his lack of emotion, even when chasing, was just so disturbing. He never seemed to sprint, and thank God we were able to lose him. At least, we thought we did. We zipped our tents quietly, and we all agreed to not tell anybody. I don't know why. We were stupid when we were kids, and we were just scared that we might get in trouble. We stayed awake the entire night, jumping at every little tree branch snapping and wind gusting. We had never been so happy to see the light of the morning. We hiked out of the woods that afternoon and never saw the man again. Since we're now safe, we figured that we would still never tell the teachers about what happened. We didn't get caught for sneaking out, and we never got hurt by that weirdo in the woods. I wanted to tell someone, but one of my friends talked me out of it. Basically... Hey! Astro! Thank you for the 5 gifters, too. Christopoulos, Lovely Tea, Toodle Pants, Dawn, Worry Bout, and Alona Jane, Alviar. Is it Alona? Yeah, sorry. It's kind of hard to see. Thank you, Astro. Appreciate you. Basically, if I got in trouble, all of us could have gotten in trouble, so they thought it was best to just sort of sweep it under the carpet. And I guess I'm lucky nothing worse happened. We absolutely should have told the teachers, but at that age, the idea of just getting in trouble seemed worse, and now that I'm older, and now a fall season... And now that I'm older, not a fall season goes by where I don't think about that weirdo in the woods. Hey, Christinopolis with the start of the member train. Thank you so much for the 5 members too. A. Ron Wilson, Shan, J-Bro, The Black Parade, and Bad Cat Davis. Thank you, my friends. Be sure to thank anybody who has gifted you with a membership, and now you have access to bonus content. It's raining gifts. It seems like mass cult recruitment. It is, pretty much. This is where it happens. Once you've been chosen, you're in.
Mischievous dog. Mischievous dog.
Autumn is an amazing season. I love the way the leaves change on the trees. I love all the activities in the fall, like hiking, apple picking, pumpkin picking, and even celebrating Halloween. October holds a very special place in my heart because that's when my husband and I got married. This October will already be our 15th wedding anniversary. As great of all This October will already be our 15th wedding anniversary. As great as all of that is, the story I want to share is not a great memory, but a horrible nightmare that nearly ruined this time of year for me. We had just celebrated our first wedding anniversary the weekend prior, so the next weekend we planned on taking it easy and just sort of taking an easy. Mischievous frog. Do you guys prefer the word fall or autumn? I don't know. I feel like fall feels easier to say. It's fall. That's why it's cold. But autumn is like when you really want to like encapsulate the art of it all, the changing of the leaves and the atmosphere. So, the next weekend we planned on taking it easy and just having a fun, relaxing afternoon. We decided to go pumpkin picking since it was a beautiful day and we were both off of work. We spent a few hours at the pumpkin patch, and it was one of those big ones that had a ton to do, so we weren't just picking pumpkins the entire time. We watched the live band and had some hot coffee and apple cider donuts. When we were getting ready to leave, I could tell my husband wasn't ready to call it a day quite yet. I asked him if there was anything else he wanted to do before we headed home. He smiled and asked if we could go for a little hike. Something to know about me is that I am not the biggest fan. How do you manage to find so many stories to narrate with permission? Do you go through Reddit asking a bunch of people? Yeah, I mean, a lot of these are, the majority of them, I guess, would be sent over email, so it's like people kind of, who are subscribers, like, willingly sending in their stuff. And I don't really want to use their, if you do send it in, make sure if you really care that much about your name being credited, be sure to leave not your real name, because, I don't know, it's just kind of an awkward thing. That's why with the Reddit stories, it's easier, because you can just leave their Redditor names. Something to know about me is that I'm not the biggest fan of hiking. I don't mind being outside, but the idea of trekking through the woods with bugs and animals is not my thing. But I know my husband loves that sort of thing, so he suggested visiting one of the local sites near the pumpkin patch since we were already out that way, roughly an hour from where we lived. I agreed to his suggestion since I knew the site that he was talking about and it wasn't that intense of a hike. We left the pumpkin patch and headed for our autumn hike at around 2 in the afternoon, and we planned on heading home around 3:30. When we turned into the parking lot, I could see that my husband was upset. The park was closed for some sort of renovations, I guess, and they had a big sign up that said, "Will open next May." Instead of turning around in the parking lot, he parked and told me that we had to check out the sign up close. As we were walking to the start of the trail, he pointed out that there were several cars parked in the lot. His logic was that even though the park was closed, it wasn't technically in season, and we could probably just walk on the trails anyway. He started to nudge me a little bit and said that we should just check out the first bit of the trail. He kept pointing to the other cars and saying that other people were there for his defense. What? Unsmashes the like button. Don't do it. Don't unsmash it. Reversal. Smash. He kept pointing to the other cars and saying that other people were there for his defense, and I gave up the argument and told him that we could just check out the first few minutes of the trail, but then I wanted to leave. I could tell he was excited. This type of rule breaking, though not serious, was still way out of character for us. We had to jump this chain link fence to get onto the trail and pass a bunch of construction equipment. I was already regretting my decision at this point. No trespassing signs were everywhere, and I was fully expecting to be confronted by either a worker or maybe even a police officer. A few minutes into the walk, my husband pointed out this little shack out of the trail a little bit. Out of the trail. Yeah, I think they just worded it weird. A few minutes into the walk, my husband pointed out this little shack out of the trail a little bit. It wasn't like an old abandoned shack. It was actually the opposite. It was this strange little building that was clearly almost brand new. Most likely it was some sort of break room for the workers, I guess. My husband wanted to check it out, so the string of bad decisions continued. As we approached the building, my husband pointed out to me that it was a portable building. I'd never seen anything like that before, so I thought it was pretty cool, and he explained to me that it was almost like a trailer. It didn't have any plumbing or AC, but it was a sturdy structure to eat and take a break from the elements. When we were only 10 feet away, we could hear muffled voices on the inside of the structure. Not wanting to bring attention to ourselves, we decided to just move quickly towards the building instead of away. I know that sounds backwards, but we were walking towards the front door. If we turned around and ran, it would for sure bring attention to ourselves. That's why we sort of ducked and ran toward the side of the building so we could figure out how to get away without getting caught, you know. I thought right away that we were done for. I assumed that it was either a construction crew inside the building or a park ranger. While we were hiding on the side of the building, my husband was motioning for me to be quiet while he tried to listen. He's considerably taller than me, so he practically had his ear on the window. I was too short to reach the window, so I couldn't hear what they were saying. I could only hear the muffled tones of the voices, and they sounded angry. My husband then made a decision to sort of cup his hands and look through the window. In all the years I've known this man, I had never seen the expression that he made that day. I watched the colors sort of just run away from his face, and seconds later, he ducked down with some speed. I could see the fear in his eyes, but even worse than that, I could hear the terror in his voice. He looked right at me, voice shaking, and said, "We need to go right now." He grabbed my arm and guided me as we ran back to the trail and then back to our car. I barely had the door shut and he was already speeding out of the parking lot. He continued checking in his rearview mirror every few seconds. The entire drive home I kept asking him what he saw, but he wouldn't tell me. It clearly wasn't a worker or an officer because his reaction to that would not be this bad. When we got home, he immediately went back outside and called the police. He went as far as sitting in his car to call the police so I wouldn't hear him. And the worst part of all of this, though, I still don't know what he saw that afternoon. That night he begged me to stop asking and made me promise that I wouldn't bring it up again. And after a little battle, I finally agreed. And all these years later, I still don't know. I've remained true to my word by not asking him. Believe it or not, this story gets even worse. And whatever he saw that day affected him so badly that he hasn't slept right ever since, it seems. He won't talk to anybody about it, and he's learned to live with his messed up sleep cycle. And he blames his insomnia on work and stress, but it didn't start till very clearly after that incident. Every night he gets in bed with me. Once I'm asleep, he'll just sort of get up and sit in the living room all night long. He won't turn the TV on, and he doesn't play video games, and he doesn't even read a book, it seems. He just sort of faces the door and remains there until he eventually passes out on the couch or his alarm goes off. So whatever happened that afternoon, I just hope that someday my husband finds the peace of mind that he deserves. Alright, whatever. It's just like... it was old Greg, yeah, probably. I mean, it would have been... how the fuck are you not going to tell what you saw, like, as soon as you leave? Would it not just be, like, make logical sense? Like, what stupid fucking thing could be in there? I think I've caught up on 4 years of this channel's content in, like, 8 months. Nice, dude. Banging it out, baby. I mean, yeah, like, legitimately, like, what can be the worst thing ever? I feel like the spooky aspect is she doesn't tell you what it is. Still lame, though. Well, I feel like it almost, like, makes it, I don't know, silly. Like, no logical human interaction would ever, after years, and then just goes and sits in the fucking living room just staring at the door. Like, whatever, dude. Joel, if you were in Friends, which character would you be? Probably Topanga. Did you ever drink Baileys from a shoe? Creamy. I don't know. As a kid, I never liked Friends. I thought Friends was fucking terrible. I know a lot of people like Friends, but I just, like, you know, as a kid, where my, like, standards for television shows were not very high, I feel like I watched the same fucking episode of a cartoon, like, 50 times in a row, and I would still watch it. There was something about Friends and, like, most sitcoms that my parents watched where I was just like, this is fucking not funny. Do I listen to your prison episode about China? You did your best to cover all info. That really impressed me as a Chinese. Yeah, we definitely, I think, got most of it, but it's just frustrating because, like, you can clearly tell that that video was sort of, like, stonewalled. Now, granted, I kind of titled it a little bit weird, almost in, like, a true crimey fashion, or, like, not your conventional, like, true scary prison story, you know. Since it was all true crime, I think, the whole time. Yeah, since it was all prison stuff. Or not true crime, but, like, historical stuff as well. But, I half wondered to myself if there was some sort of, like, mild throttling of the success of that video due to the metadata of talking about, you know, You know, they who should not be named. The party. You hate it when your dad would watch Seinfeld. I don't know. I mean, there's moments. Like, I had friends who, like, love Seinfeld, friends who love Friends. I don't know. Just, like, sitcoms ever since I was a kid just never really, like... Even though I did love Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, maybe Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was just... You know, just a next level good one. What's up, Onyx? The story I'm about to tell you is perhaps the strangest and most unsettling thing that's ever happened to me. And now that I have some years to think about it, I understand just how weird it truly is. It was around 10 years ago, give or take. My wife and I loved to hike, and we still love to hike to this day. Specifically, we love to hike in this fall season. We live in the northern east coast of the United States, and the way the leaves turn during the weather change is really remarkable. Not to mention, fall isn't too warm, so it makes the hikes much more bearable. We spend the first few weekends of the fall season hitting some local trails. As October approached, we started to venture further from home and hike some more intense trails, the types of hikes that take an entire day to complete. On one specific October afternoon, we decided to hike an unmarked trail. We both were experienced hikers, and we didn't plan. How I Met Your Mother. Yeah, I guess How You Met Your Mother, like, started out pretty solid. There were some decent jokes, but... And then we found out how they met, and it was just like, holy shit. Really? That's how they met? That's disgusting. Oh, Freaks and Geeks. I don't really consider Freaks and Geeks like a... You know, typical live studio audience, like sitcom style thing. I feel like it had a lot more production value to it. Oh yeah, used to skip school for Golden Girl reruns. That's awesome. Yeah, Kenan and Kel was great. Who loves orange soda? I don't know. Maybe it's just because I was a stupid little kid and it just wasn't geared towards me. But I feel like if you're gonna make like an adult show, presumably you should have the ability to like entertain a kid as well on your show. But maybe that's just not the appropriate crossover. XLuck 2016 with the 20 says, a little appreciation your work. Thank you. Thank you very much. It was very kind of you. Oh yeah, Married with Children was pretty okay. I never really caught a lot of it, but I do recall like it was a little bit edgier back then, a little bit more hardcore. Hardcore sitcom. Oh, Sisters, now cringe. That's funny, yeah, I did watch a lot of Sister. Wasn't there like a Knock spin-off show of that where they're like their brother or somebody was a genius? Remember that kid? It was on Disney Channel. There was a lot of Disney Channel fucking sitcoms. Holy shit. Yeah, a lot of those are cringe as shit. And I feel like or maybe it was Nickelodeon. It seemed like Disney actors actually made it out the other end without going too insane, but it seems as if though anybody who ever worked within, you know, a toe's distance of Dan Schneider didn't make it out unscathed. Oh god, 2.5 Men. God, kill me now, dude. Smart Guy, that's what it was. Yeah, Smart Guy was pretty alright. Just so funny, there's so many fucking shows. Your twin's big like Tia Tamara? Wait, were they different sizes? One twin was pocket size, the other was size of Shaq. Yeah, Drake and Josh. I never really watched Drake and Josh. I feel like that was like after my time. But I don't think they made it out the other end either. You just watched NCIS as a kid. There you go. Learning how to be a forensic examiner. Oh yeah, Lizzie McGuire. I remember that shit. Kelsey Grammer from Cheers to Frasier. To Frasier? Yeah, not a fan of Frasier. That one was extra cringe. I don't even know who they were. I can't even imagine writing for that show, like how fucking pompous you have to be to come up with the dialogue. Oh, little Chardonnay, what a perfect year, in the perfect location. And like for some reason the audience would like laugh when he would say stuff like that. And, like as a kid you're like, I'm joining ISIS, this is fucking stupid. I suck at reading, thanks brother. Law and Order SVU. With a heart. Special Victims Unit, what's up? We both were experienced hikers, and we didn't plan on staying overnight or anything like that. My wife especially was very good at navigating the forest and just being cautious of her direction and the course she takes. And that's why going off trail and taking an unmarked route wasn't that big of a deal for us. Around midday, we decided to take a break in a nice little clearing. It was hard to believe that people didn't travel to this section of the woods. It was almost like this little pocket of the woods was designed for hikers to take breaks. It was a circular little spot of the forest with two tree stumps. Yeah, Smallville was pretty fucking good. I watched that when I was down in Florida, like last year maybe, or was it? Yeah, I think it was last year. Somebody save me. And it was just so funny. The acting was so corny and everything was just so ridiculous. It was a circular little spot of the forest with two tree stumps. We each sat on a stump and ate a protein bar, and we decided to take a 15-minute break before heading back out into the forest. Right before heading back into the woods, we heard a noise coming from just beyond the trees. We both paused and listened to the rustling noise. In these specific woods, there were plenty of animals that could do some serious harm to us if we weren't careful. The more we kept listening to the noise, the more unsure that we were of what animal it could be. It was clearly something making the noise, and it was clearly something making that noise and not just the wind. I said that we should just stay put for a while until the noise stopped, but my wife wanted to check out whatever was beyond the thick brush. I can't blame her. I was curious as well. I just don't want to I just didn't want to risk being mauled by a bear or something. We proceeded with caution, trying to be as light on our feet as we possibly could, and even writing this now, I still can't believe what we saw. Now, pacing rather erratically back and forth seemed to be a young woman. A very pretty young woman, I might add, most likely in her early to mid-20s. She had blonde hair and blue eyes from what I could see, and she was wearing a beautiful white dress that went down to her knees. The strangest part was that she seemed to be shoeless. Her feet were dirty, and the dirt seemed to spread up to her legs and calves. Now, I'm sure you're asking yourself, why didn't we go and help the woman who was clearly lost or in distress? Well, to answer your question, we kinda did. Or tried, at least. We didn't want to approach her because she was being very erratic with all of her movements, Hands swailing. Oh, you know what was funny? I remember around the time that I was watching Smallville with my friends, the guy, Tony Todd, who was on an episode of Smallville where, like, he was like Earthquake Man. He, like, got touched by the kryptonite or some shit, and then he became, like, an earthquake dude, and, like, part of his backstory was that he killed his baby because he shook the shit out of it. Because he was, like, an earthquake guy. He fucking earthquaked his baby. And it's just so stupid. The whole show was like the worst. Dude, if ever there was a bad slap, like a writer that was so bad that they were good, it was a fucking Smallville show. Because it was just so fucking corny. And, like, you know, young Superman was, like, obsessed with, like, some girl in his little village town. And never once did they, like, ever take the time. Yeah, Lana Lang. Was it Lana Lang? Was that the name of the character? But the writer, like, there were so many characters in that show that, you know, it's pretty typical sitcom behavior to, like, analyze this character for an episode, or analyze this character, or let's get the backstory on this character. They just never fucking did her backstory, so all she would do was constantly lead Clark around, like, you know, just didn't give a fuck about his feelings or anything while still dating the coolest guy. Or some shit. And then, it was I would get mad whenever they would kiss. Mainly because I was like, I don't even know who that girl is. He's had a fucking obsessive crush over for like 6 seasons in a row, and we still don't know anything about her. It was so weird. Lana. Leslie. Lois. See, you would think it would be Lois Lane, but he doesn't meet Lois Lane till he goes to fucking college and works for Metropolis or whatever. So back home in his hometown, it was just some, like, made-up chick. They did do hers? I swear, they fucking, like, took so long. Like, it would have been, like, episode... You think it would be, like, episode 3 they would dig into it, but it took so fucking long. Oh yeah, and people in the Smallville started a cult. Holy shit, I forgot about that, dude. Dude, I should do a fucking... Not a complete episode, but definitely a true crime, occult episode that digs into the, what is it, the Nexium cult, the NXVIM or whatever. Because that shit was fucking wild. What a ride. What a freaking ride that was. Oh yeah, Malcolm in the Middle was good. I don't know, I feel like the shows that actually weren't just like in front of a live studio audience actually were good. But any of the ones that were in front of a live studio audience were very fucking hit or miss. The female lead went to prison. I don't think she was the female lead though, it was like the blonde one. Or did they both do it? I don't fucking know. Hands swaying all around and body moving from left to right. She was mumbling and talking to herself, but we couldn't make out exactly what she was saying. It was more sort of like groans. It was more like groans mixed with occasional laughter. So instead of... motherfucker. So, instead of approaching this clearly unwell woman, we called out to her. At first, she didn't react. She just kept hopping around the woods erratically, almost like a frog, you know? And then we shouted again, much louder this time. She must have heard us because now she stopped in her tracks. She didn't move at all. She just stood there. No more mumbling and no more movements. My wife took a step forward and asked the woman if she was all right and if she needed any help. And instead of answering, the woman turned around and hissed at my wife. And I'm not kidding either. This woman straight up hissed like a cat, and then turned and sprinted into the woods in the opposite direction of where we were standing. I basically stayed put, but my wife chased her for a little while. She yelled at me that we wouldn't just let this poor girl stay in the woods all by herself. A few minutes into the chase, my wife just gave up. Not because she didn't want to continue, but because the woman was so fast that she was able to outrun my wife, even with no shoes. I stayed in the area where we originally found the woman, and my wife ran back to where we started our hike. She called the ranger and informed them of what had happened, and she took the ranger to the spot where I was waiting just in case the woman ever came back. The ranger gave us a sort of nice verbal smackdown for hiking in areas that we weren't supposed to hike, but where we were wasn't technically. No joke, if my kid was a girl, her name would have been Chloe because of that character. You would have named your kid after a cultist. It's a little strange. A feral woman's just like me, for real, for real. You know, you got for real, and then you got for real, for real. Why not, like, 60 FRs in a row? For real, 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 for real. I want to hear, like, the TikTok lady AI voice say, for real, 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 for real. You join a cult for Allison Mack. Bro, same, honestly. I'd be in that shit fucking day one. I'd be like, brand me, dude. Tattoo me right here on my asshole. I don't care. I'm in. Smallville? More like Smashville. The ranger gave us a nice verbal smackdown for hiking in areas we weren't supposed to hike. Where we were wasn't, like, what kind of fucking... I should watch Mr. Brown Boy's Irish comedy. That sounds fun. Irish comedy. We tell lots of jokes. Ha 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 ha. Oh, the character wasn't in a cult. You just liked her and loved that name. Okay. Thanks for... The ranger gave us a nice verbal smackdown for hiking in areas we weren't supposed to hike. But where we were wasn't technically illegal, so we didn't get in any real trouble. And my wife was upset that the ranger didn't seem to care about the woman that we saw. We both had gotten the impression that the park ranger thought that we were making up some sort of elaborate story. They started to search for the woman eventually, but after a few days they never found anyone, and they said that they had never even found any evidence that a person had been out there. They even checked our description of the woman with the women who had recently gone missing, but our mysterious woman didn't seem to match any of those poor girls. We never received any answers about this weird occurrence in the woods. My wife even went back to these woods several times and tried searching for any sign of the woman, but she never got any answers. We did take some solace in the fact that no woman matching that description was ever reported missing, or worse, found dead. And I don't know what we saw that day. I have no idea where that woman came from or where she went. All I know for sure is that she was clearly not in the correct state of mind, and she was very, very fast. Thank you for posting as much as you do. I really appreciate your work ethic. Thank you, C-Days. I do be trying. Did you ever see Dicktown on Hulu? No, what's that about? Is it kind of like Cumtown? The Cumtown podcast? My work ethic. What if I had really bad work ethics? What would those even entail? Irish accents are hot, do you think? What about this one? I've got a pot of gold. And in the gold, I've got, chocolate. Chocolate! I've got chocolate! Delicious. E-thick, yeah. My work E-thick. I was actually inspired by Allison Mack to start the Buttersock cult. If you have a green name, Fry should be around to brand you soon, so thank you, Fry. Offensive accents? What about, like, defensive accents? Like, whenever you have to, like, make up an accent to fit in? That's me. That's me right there. Did Jensen like Jared or no? It is kind of funny. I do remember, we watched a little bit of Supernatural, and they would say, like, the brothers had, like, all this sexual tension or something. Like, Jesus Christ. It's kind of weird that they were trying, like, Reddit was trying so hard to force that. You have a debate, mayo or Miracle Whip? What the fuck is Miracle Whip? Doesn't sound like a miracle at all. I washed dishes at a Lebanese restaurant as a kid and unintentionally started accenting my words, I guess, from being around them so much. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that happens anywhere you go. If I were to move to fucking Liverpool, I guarantee you in a short period of time that I would start talking as if though I was from the Beatles. It wouldn't take long before I enunciate all of me words. This is a really cool and borderline disturbing story that happened to my friends and me a couple of years ago. We all live in Nevada, but every fall we fly to New York to hike some of the trails, specifically up in the Adirondack mountain area. If none of you have ever seen autumn in New York, it's very worth it. The sights are beautiful. Breathtaking, really, is the word that comes to mind. I know a lot of people where we live think of New York City every time we say that we're going to New York, and they don't realize that the state is kind of big, and most of the state is mountains and forests. Basically, do yourself a favor and check it out, especially if you're a fan of nature and the outdoors. The Adirondacks are a must. My friend Luis always plans the hikes for us every year. He's one of those strange types of people who could live off the land, be stranded in the elements, and survive relatively easily. We trust Luis. He's safe, he's thorough, and he hasn't led us into danger yet, and we've been doing these hikes and camping trips for over a decade now. And this year was no different. We got to our cabin and spent the first night going over the map and trail that Luis had planned out. It seemed like a straightforward trip. Sometimes Luis liked to really challenge us. This year, though, he wanted to enjoy the sights and not worry about the difficulty of the terrain. We started early in the next morning, and we were navigating the woods and taking pictures of all the amazing sights. And during our hike, Luis took us a little off course because he said that he could see something up ahead that kind of didn't look natural. I've seen enough horror movies to know that when somebody says something like that, it usually means no bueno. A few yards off, of course, we stumbled upon a very old structure. It became clear right away that it was some sort of old church. I can say that confidently because the building had a big steeple and a cross on top of the steeple. Oh. That was... Oops, damn it. What's a Latin accent? You would have to go backwards in time to Rome to have a Latin accent. Did we miss Thanksgiving? I don't think so. I feel like somebody said that last stream. Hello, Eugenia. Eugenius. When she passes, when she gets an A+ on all of her gamer exams. Any good horror movie recommendations? No, don't even look. Oh, there was actually one. What was it called? Like Veronica or something like that. And it was about a girl who was becoming a vampire or something. I remember watching that. Or no, she got possessed by a demon. A demon. A demonic entity. I forget though. It wasn't that good though. I mean, it was alright. The music was cool. It was like rock music. It was like rock. Have you heard of a rock? My cousin had made a movie called ETTU. It's a horror comedy. I was in a few scenes. It was dropped yesterday. Interesting. Is it like is it like a legit like, or is it like sort of like a YouTube channel movie? After 10 movies of Saw, it's like we get it. Yeah, honestly, sometimes I wonder if it's like an honor to become one of those movies like Hellraiser, or remember what's that one called like Dream Catcher? Was it Dream Catcher? I don't know. It's just one of those ones that eventually ends up on Sci-Fi Channel and has like 10 fucking sequels because they keep selling the rights around or something. Dreamscape. Let's see. No, it was like a genie. It was like a genie movie where they were like a djinn, you know? Wishmaster. Yeah, Wishmaster. Sorry, I got that mixed up there. Yeah, Wishmaster was about like a evil genie djinn thing. And like you would make a wish and he'd be like, you worded it kind of weird, so now you're stuck inside of a snake body. No, I just wanted a long snake body. Actually, this is exactly what I wanted. Thanks, Wishmaster. No, you're happy with your wish? Fuck. That's not what I wanted. I wanted you to be unhappy. Well, you did a good job. And thanks. Oh yeah, and there's Puppet Master. You like genie themes? Yeah, it's pretty cool to kind of explore that stuff. Oh, dude, yeah, Page Master was fucking sick. With Macaulay Culkin. Dude, that movie was so fucking good. I used to watch that on repeat as a kid. When they would like, when he went into that library and was like crushed by a bunch of paint, and then he ended up in all the different old school books and stuff. Jekyll and Hyde and stuff. Let's read. What do you think about the Jeanette McCurdy book, Glad My Mother Died, or something like that? I don't know. I never heard of it. What's the synopsis? So Monkey's Paw, the movie. Isn't that Jordan Peele's production studio? Monkey Paw or some Monkey Claw? They portrayed the djinns totally wrong. Yeah, I imagine so. It'd be kind of sick if they had like a djinn representation, but like actually got it appropriately correct or something. I don't even know if they can. I guess in all movies, anytime they represent like a demon, it's sort of just up in the air. Even though I will say in Hereditary, whatever demon that they were trying to represent in that, they had a ton of like interesting stuff that was sort of like nuanced and sold pretty well. Ever read the Frankenstein books? No, dude. I'm not much of a reader, to be honest with you. Believe it or not. She goes into how she was forced into acting by her mother, how abusive she was, and how horrible her time in acting was. Oh, okay, yeah, that sucks. Yeah, it sounds like a lot of Hollywood is just complete dog shit. I don't think I'd want to be a part of it. Mainly just because, like, I don't even know. It just seems like in Hollywood, all you really do is, you know, you say yes and yes and yes and yes to everything in the hopes that, like, if somebody tangentially takes off within the networking process of that work that you got, maybe they'll bring you with you, bring you with them to the next big thing that they might do or whatever. And I just feel like that constant stress of, like, you know, constantly having to, like, be fake around people and, like, pretend like you're their friends even though you think their ideas are kind of dog shit. You know, and by being that way all the time, you probably do actually become them in a weird way without even realizing it. Maybe in, like, a strange sort of, like, psychological defense mechanism. And then you eventually just sort of lose touch with who you even are. Hey, Silver Node with the 10 says, I found your channel a year ago and this is my first live stream. I really enjoy the way you read and want to thank you for giving it your all. Thank you, Silver Node. Appreciate you. Yeah, we got some hiking stories here for you. For the morrow. In the morrow. And Rose, welcome to the Buttersock Cult. You now have access to bonus content. Child stars should be outlawed. Yeah, I mean, or at least, I don't know. There should be something within Hollywood that, like, operates more as, like, a watchdog. Maybe. I don't know. Just to, like, fucking look after these poor kids. Like, doing background checks and, like, consistent background checks on, like, anybody who works with children within those systems. Because, or, I don't know, you know what I mean? Because it seems as if though they get away with it for like a while, and if there's anything that, if they can be like motivated to kind of look into the people, maybe there would be a decentivization for some of those people to like participate in that realm. I don't know, man. It just seems like a place, like Hollywood's a place where kids go to get traumatized, and adults too. It's fucked up. You don't read? Not for fun, unfortunately. My fun time is spent with my friends, or lifting weights, or playing stupid fucking Overwatch, watching silly little shows. Your little brother was forced into acting until my mom read Jeanette McCurdy's book. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I guess if it opens their eyes to that. But I mean, like, wouldn't it be your mom being the one to, like, force him into acting? Unless it was, like, from your father's side. Because being forced presumes that the, you know, your brother, like, didn't want to do it. And, I don't know, just... Sorry. Anyways. I can say that confidently. I can say that confidently. Okay. Mutant Carrot. That's a good movie. I can say that confidently because the building had a big steeple and a cross on top of the steeple. I I can say that confidently because the building had a big steeple and a cross on top of that steeple. And if you ask me, that's a dead giveaway for a church. And even though we were surrounded by beautiful sights, this was somehow the most amazing thing I'd ever seen. We were deep in the woods, and not in the areas that people hike typically. The fact that a building like this was in the woods and in the condition that it was truly amazing. After a bunch of pictures, we went inside the church, and I'm doubling down by saying that this was the coolest thing I'd ever seen with my own eyes. It was like stepping into a time machine. Inside the church were several rows of wooden benches that led to a small wooden altar at the back of the church. I remember seeing a giant wooden cross, and there were candles everywhere. Obviously, the candles were burned down to nothing, and there was wax all over the wooden floorboards of the church. On the floor in between one of the benches was an old Bible. It was so old that you couldn't even see what the words said anymore. And to this day, I still have that Bible on my bookshelf because it was an awesome conversation starter that obviously leads to this story. We hung around inside of the church for a while, just sort of taking in the awe of the situation. We talked about possible conclusions about who used the church, but every answer we came up with still made no sense, mainly because there wasn't anything else near the church, at least nothing that we could find. No other buildings, or even remnants of buildings. And while we were hanging around the church, Louise noticed something weird. Behind the altar were a couple of floorboards that sounded sort of different than the other ones that we were walking on. Louise moved the wooden altar out of the way to reveal 2 hinges, and this amazing discovery of ours was about to get even cooler. Not only did we find a church in the middle of nowhere, but we now had found a weird door in the floor of that church. We shone our lights down into the hole, but it just looked like a dark and dusty hole in the earth. We could see the dirty ground, and I would guess it was most likely 8 feet down. I got on my stomach and practically was hanging into the hole. I wasn't sure, but I thought that I could see paintings or something on the wall. Without giving my friends any chance to decide, I just jumped inside and simultaneously told them that I wanted to check it out. And what a sight to behold once I was down there. There were indeed paintings all over the walls. They appeared to be stone walls, but I'm not an expert. The paintings were of nothing of... We haven't gone to church in weeks for various reasons. Our group leader's wife just reached out to ask if we still had the sign-up sheet for people who bring snacks. They don't miss me, just snacks. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of so corny. Like, humans are so geared towards, like, our silly little tasks, you know what I mean? Like, and the work that we do, even if the work is kind of just, like, pointless, that we just sort of, like, lose touch with the human aspect of why we're even in something. I mean, presumably in church, you're, like, trying to connect with other humans / trying to connect with some sort of higher spiritual thingamabobber. But yeah, sometimes it's funny that, like, and then, you know, even more so in church, whenever people, you know, not just church, but any sort of religious organization, you go through the motions of it so often of just doing various rituals that, like, it, like, irks our insides to the point of, like, feeling nauseous because, like, things aren't progressing as described or anticipated or tradition says, or blah, 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 blah. Oh, you had church on Saturday instead of Sunday? Guess I'm gonna burn your church down. Just kidding. But that being said, snacks are very important. We need you back. Have you ever watched the videos of Frank Sinatra AI sing Britney Spears and Lady Gaga? I think I did hear some Frank Sinatra AI, and it sounded really fucking good, and it was a little bit scary. The last church I went to, the pastor said, "I want to thank you all for my new Harley Davidson." No way, really? I hope that's what they said. That's ballin' as shit, dude. I want to thank you guys all for my Stuart Little motorcycle. I couldn't afford an actual Harley Davidson, so I got a little replica. I'm gonna have Pradeep ride it around. I do remember, like, back in high school, my like my pastor in church and stuff sort of like peeled into the parking lot, or maybe peeled out. I forget the exact context, but I just specifically remember him and his son being in like one of the, it was like right when spring was sort of starting, winter was ending. People were coming back to church and being able to go outside a little bit to talk. And like he just like peels out of the parking lot or into it at some point in a fucking like brand new, you know, like no roof Jeep, like one of those like new, you know, like back in the day, like Jeeps were kind of gross, but then eventually they got like real luxurious, and he got one of like the first ever like luxury style Jeeps. And I just remember having that sensation of like, what the fuck? Why the fuck is like a holy man driving some ballin' ass shit like that? Like that's kind of bullshit. Now granted, I'm not gonna knock him for it, because sometimes you just gotta live your life. But it did make me kind of think to myself like, it's like when you're like a taxpayer and you see your politicians, you know, flying around in private jets and shit on your fucking dollar. You love hearing stories about Joel's life. Thanks. Yeah, my life really wasn't that exciting, but it was pretty average. The poll needs a maybe option. I might click that like button. God wanted him to have that Jeep, that's true. Same with his private jet. No. He wishes he had a church big enough for a private jet. It does have to hit you eventually, though. Kind of just like looking internally, seeing like the story of Jesus, where Jesus was like, a fox at least has a hole to lay his head. I have, fuck all to sleep in. And, Jesus kind of kept it that way, where he was just sort of nomadically going from place to place on little adventures. And then you come to the modern day where we got church leaders and fucking H1 Hummers, 30-inch rims. Fucking wipe me down, bro. Wipe me down. Wipe me down. Wipe me down. We got Boozy Badass leading the sermon. Here in Brazil, oh, sorry, I was reading that. Do you go to bars? I'm trying to put myself out there and go to the Meetup app to find events. I don't really go to bars, mainly just because I'm not a fan of alcohol. Because, like, whenever you're, like, lifting weights and shit, alcohol is one of those things that you consume that really fucks up your hormones and stuff. And I don't want to do that. But, I do enjoy socializing, but I think it's important to, well, at least for me, to do it through different ways. I just offended a lot of people with little adventures. He did go on little adventures, dude. Like, if you read the Bible, he's doing fucking side quests the whole time, bro. Making fish, walking on water. Like Jesus, the New Testament, well, no, like the Gospels are in the, Adventures of Jesus is literally a fucking anime show. They could turn Jesus into an anime, guaranteed, and it would be pretty spot on. Joel Osteen is a definition of true, but yeah, Joel Osteen really gave Joel's a bad name. Yeah, Jesus had his own line of sandals, some Jeezys. Yeah, I don't know. It is what it is. It's been 2,000 fucking years. Holy shit, dude. That's some like, when you hear something like people been believing something for 2,000 fucking years, you're like, holy crap, that's some like Warhammer 40k shit right there. Yeah. Shrek is love, Shrek is life. 2,000 years is nothing. Dude, it's a long ass time, bro. It's like, how old am I? 33? The year that Jesus died? 2,000 divided by 33? That's 60 of me's. That's 60 of my lifetimes. I guess that's not that many when you think about it. Damn, 2,000 goes by quick. What the devil is wrong with Joel Osteen? Well, he's just, I don't know. I think you'd have to look into him probably. You could probably find like the dark side of Joel Osteen on YouTube or something. I mean, you could find that on anybody, but you know, just the sort of hypocritical sensation of like being a Christ follower person, but then being heavily focused on money and temporal goods and blah blah blah, like wearing the nicest clothes, you know what I mean? It's very seldom that you come across like a mega preacher or a mega church preacher who actually like would attempt to adhere to the teachings of Christos. If you live forever, 2K, yes is nothing, right? This is true. This is true. Jesus invented side quests. I mean, you got to admire, though. It seemed like people were just... I feel like if you weren't married with kids at 33 back then, that's pretty much like being like 75. At that point, all you can really do is go do side quests and say, fuck it. You know, because the bank doesn't have you held for any, like, loans or anything. Or maybe it does. Maybe the bank and the church was the same shit back then. I guess, yeah, a lot of people had debts. But then they would have, like, Jubilee and shit to, like, forgive people of their debts. I mean, that was part of the whole fucking prayer, wasn't it? Forgive our debtors as we forget those who are in debt to it. No, that's sin. I fucking forget. Yeah, rich man, camel, eye of needle. There you go. That whole spiel. Anyways, we are moving on. The paintings were of nothing of note that I could tell. What the fuck? The paintings were nothing of note that I could tell. Symbols of weird things that I can't really describe. Nothing really offensive, and it didn't look like any sort of language that I could recognize, which isn't saying too much. I'm sure that it was religious symbology, but I'm not religious, so I have no idea. And while I was mesmerized... And while I was mesmerized by these sort of weird symbols, my eyes were directed to the back of the dark square room. Wait, is that what they were in? A dark square room? I feel like they didn't establish the term dark square room prior to referring to it. You love me, David? Thanks, dude. I'm 26 and everyone pressures me to have kids. I have freaking ages yet. Oh yeah, man. I don't have any kids. When I hang out with my friends' kids, I'm like, there's a lot of times where I'm like, man, I wish I had some kids. But then there's a lot of times too when I'm hanging out with them where I'm like, thank God I can get the fuck out of there. That shit looks annoying as hell. You know, just dealing with like the squawkety-bockety of all the bullshit, you know. But granted, whenever it's your kid, you just kind of get used to it and try your best or whatever. But, yeah, Leslie says don't have kids. Well, there you go. That's coming from a procreator themselves. How's my night going? It's going good. We're just chilling. Oh, Kenneth Copeland. Yeah, dude, he was scary. I remember back in my more, like, religious days... There was like, you know, certain pastors that you would sort of follow online because they were, you know, they developed sort of cult-like status and things. And I remember there was this guy, his name was like Todd White. And Todd was all about like miracles and just like, you know, heavy positive energy bullshit, you know. Great at speaking in front of everybody. But then he like teamed up with the Kenneth Copeland thing, and I just remember everyone in the comments being like, "What are you doing, bro? This guy's literally a demon spawn." And he is, man. He's fucking scary. He like looks kind of like a character model from that, new space game from, Starfield. He just doesn't look quite right. Like he's like some sort of lizard beast wearing like a human outfit. But he's like kind of squeezing out of it a bit much, kind of like in Men in Black when that cockroach creature is wearing that dude's skin and then just like burst out. But I don't know. Looking back on all that shit, it's hard to keep up with it. It's hard to, it's so hard to just always pretend like you give a shit all the time. Like when it came to religious stuff. Like obviously you want to like connect with some sort of higher power, but to like always adhere to all of the dogmatic, concepts and ideas, and you're going to endlessly have questions. And it kind of applies in the same way like whenever people would like try to get you to be part of a political party. Did you ever notice that? Like when you're, even more so recently, if you adhere to some sort of political concepts, or maybe even just like one or two of the ideas, suddenly you don't adhere to the entire doctrine that sometimes changes from fucking day to day. Those people that you like considered who were your friends sit there and like criticize you for not being all on board with their ever-changing dogma, and it's all so fucking corny, You're just a human, you're born. How can you be expected to like really believe in fucking anything, let alone like some ideas that a bunch of dipshits keep trying to push on you? Shudder is good? Nice, dude. I'm glad you're using Shudder. I was so bothered by Hereditary that I had to research it. It's about a cult that wants to bring about the king of hell in a physical body. After researching it and watching it again, the movie made... Yeah, I watched some videos that kind of describe the backstory of Hereditary, and I feel like that's what they should do with like a djinn, kind of dig into the hyper specific lore of a djinn, but then like present it in a very nuanced way, the way Hereditary did. The Joel Illuminati. See, that would have been a good name instead of the Buttersock Cult. I guess that's an alternative name for it. It's the people's stupidity, not you. Well, yeah, but it's just like, it's so hard to go through cognitive dissonance, Like how can like people don't even recognize, I guess, when they go through cognitive dissonance, but it's so hard to constantly like justify belief systems, whether political or religious, even though they're the same essential psychology. It's just controlling people, controlling what people think and how they feel about things and what they do. It's all about control. And honestly, sometimes I kind of wonder if like people who are like hyper attracted to those like subcultures and then sort of espouse a lot of the opinions outwardly, I honestly wonder if they just like psychologically are innately drawn to the desire to control others, is what it is. But then they sit there and sort of linguistically wrap a reality around their desire to control things and kind of like paint themselves out to be some sort of heroes of sorts, when in reality they're just full of fuck all shit. What's the story of the Buttersock Cult? How to get the name? I don't even know. I inherited it. There was a leader. I think I was the first one, but I don't remember my origins. Lord Kenoda with the 5 says, fun chat to walk into, but also not unrealistic. People are far too tribal for our own good. Thinking for oneself truly is hard. That's true, yeah. And I kind of understand why some people go out into the woods as like a hermit or whatever. But not that I would ever fucking do that, because, I love Walmart. You do want kids, just not yet. Yeah, no rush, dude. I think a man can, have kids until they're fucking... Wasn't Theo Vaughn's dad like 72? Wasn't Theo Vaughn's dad 114 when he had him? You can recognize it when you go through cognitive dissonance, but you have to be hyper aware. Yeah, well, presumably, though, once you recognize cognitive dissonance, you will then kind of, it's kind of paradoxical. So presumably at that point, you stop having cognitive dissonance because you're like, oh, wait, I'm being hypocritical, or I'm being counterintuitive, I guess, to like, what's the truth? Therefore, I need to stop existing in that, line of thinking or whatever. Who is Theo Vaughn? Oh, Leslie, do you like stand-up comedy? He's a really funny stand-up comedian / podcaster guy. I would say his podcast and his off-the-cuff conversation is actually funnier than his stand-up, but I think they're both pretty solid stuff. Oh, you're not a fan of comedy? Well, see, you should watch stand-up comedy, and then you'll be laughing and laughing every time I say something hilarious. Bunch of weirdos at Walmart. Yeah, but I feel like that's what I kind of like going to Walmart, because there's not a lot of hot people at Walmart, so you never really feel bad about yourself when you're at Walmart. When you go to fucking like Target, it's like you're paying an upcharge to maybe like see somebody that like looks good in yoga pants, You kind of like go there to know that, you're with like a slightly higher echelon of human beings, like ones whose genetic makeup is just a little prettier. And that's why I like Walmart, because you can just go there and shit on the floor and slide in it, and like everyone's like, I swear to God, the fucking like Walmart workers are like so dead inside, they would just like look over and be like, nice. Did you ever notice about Walmart workers is like, they're almost like, when you they don't like want to interact with you at all. It's almost as if they go to the back meeting and they're like, if any of you fucking say a single fucking thing to a customer, you're done. They make like the cut across the throat. You're done. Just put your fucking headphones in your thing and just stock the fucking shelves and don't say anything. If they want to shit on the floor and slide on it like a slippy slide, you let them. You let them. And they spit in like a big can. As they walk out of the break room, they spit in a big can. It's for good luck. But it's not even to knock them, though. That's the thing. I'm not even saying that to knock them, because obviously I have respect for anybody who works anywhere. I'm not the person who's at like a restaurant being rude to the server. Like, I know it's a fucking pain in the wiener hole to just do fucking anything, but it just seems as if though like Walmart workers specifically like walk, out of the break room, and they're like, now make sure you leave your soul behind. Sure would hate for you to smile once. He was denied a proposal at Walmart. Like someone proposed to you at Walmart? Dude, that's where I want. If I ever get married, I'm proposing in Walmart, in the lingerie section. While I was mesmerized by the weird symbols, my eyes were directed to the back of the dark square room. There was a small boarded-up hole in the wall. It was an intentionally boarded-up hole with wooden planks and nails. I was shouting to my friends what I was seeing as I was going, and I told them that I was going to break the boards down and see what was in there. I could hear Louise screaming up above me, but I just sort of ignored him. I ripped the planks down and shone my light in the hole. It was as dark as my light could see. The weirdest part was that the heat coming... Jesus. It was as dark as my light could see. The weirdest part was the heat coming from the hole. It was legitimately warmth coming out of that hole. It was a little too tight for me to crawl into, so unfortunately I never got to see any further. Our lights were powerful too, and the fact that it was just continued darkness is what really amazed me. Once my friends pulled me back up, they each took a turn inspecting the hole in the wall, and we felt like explorers. This was the first time in all the years that we went hiking that I felt emotions like this. We eventually decided to finish our hike, and when we got back to the cabin, Louise informed some park rangers or someone like that about the church and what we found. The ranger said that we went way off course, even though Louise disagreed with him. The ranger told Louise that the hole supposedly led to some collapsed mine from a long time ago. He said the hole in the wall eventually gets tighter if you crawl through it, and it becomes too much of a hazard, and that's probably why it was blocked off. Now we tried some doing... Oops. Ooh, I found a hole. Let me crawl into it. This is my hole. This is my hole. Could you please make this ambient track a 2-3 when you post it? Yeah, actually I got it pre-planned for that, so I could probably post that earlier if you guys want, the bonus content earlier, but I've been doing the bonus content kind of like end of month, usually just because I procrastinate to record it, but I could just put that out ASAP. White people inspecting holes in the walls. Yeah. They do be getting in there. We tried doing more research about the area, and we found some info, but nothing that gave us direct answers. There were mines in the area, so it does make sense. Either way, this was one of the coolest things I'd ever seen, and the more we thought about it, the more unnerving the story became, though. What if people were down there when it collapsed? Why did the church have to have a path to the mines anyways? There was just so many questions. But what do you think? Do you really think it was some sort of mine entrance, or something else entirely? You, an internet historian, would make an amazing video with how great your voices are. Oh, that'd be fun. I kind of do wish more bigger channels that ask me to collab or something, or I wish I had I don't know, I would legitimately pay somebody to be my rep who reaches out to larger channels to collaborate in some fashion. But I understand that as you reach out to larger and larger channels, you kind of have to spend some money to make it occur, but also just getting their attention is difficult, because sometimes you send something like that, I'm willing to pay money, Gmail just sends you right to fucking spam, and nobody's ever checking their spam inbox. I'm proud of this community for talking respectfully about religion, not just insulting those who believe. Well, yeah, for sure. I mean, the whole, atheism rocks and the whole, religion sucks conversation. I feel like you can have that when you're 14 and feel, edgy and cool, but, eventually you're going to come back around to it if it was, in your life, and have to have at least, a respectful conversation, or at least respect the reverence of it, because I mean, what the fuck else do we have in life? You're gonna die, and just because people, want to believe shit that you might not believe, doesn't mean that they're in any way connected to the negative experiences you may have had within that religious connotation. So there's really no point in, putting them down. In the same way with, political parties, just because somebody else sort of voted for so-and-so or felt a certain way towards so-and-so, Doesn't mean that they encompass like all of the, you know, excessive big bad concepts that you can dream up in your head, and suddenly they become Hitler, or they become Stalin, or they become all the bad shit. It's just it's reductionary. It's a logical fallacy in many ways, and it's childish. And I do hope that especially people in this community, and mainly just myself, I guess, can be above that kind of bullshit. But if I ever do anything where it seems ridiculous, just let me know. You know, feel free to speak your mind here, because it's silly not to otherwise. Do you like when smaller channels try to collab with you? You know, I guess sometimes, but sometimes it feels more like a pain in the butt, you know, if I'm being honest, like, because I do want well for everyone, you know, and that kind of thing, but it's usually you don't really gain a whole lot from it, and so there's not a lot of incentivization for the smaller channels to do that. But like, I would be willing to pay like the full price of like a promotional video or something, or like a sponsorship that they might normally make towards those collabs in the larger sense. Not that I would say that those other channels would have to do that for me. In fact, if anybody ever asks me to collab and offers me money, I usually say no, because it just feels scummy. But I tend to like desire something in return. Like, I remember like Jay Nightmares, I like his voice, and I like the Japanese stories, and the fact that he was able to like help translate a bunch of Japanese stories to make a cool video and help me scratch my back while I scratch his. That to me was a nice transaction, you know, along with various others as well. Lord Kenoda with the 5 says, are all of the stories you read submitted to you, or do you edit some of them for better narrative verse? Yeah, they're usually submitted to me. I do have somebody that compiles them, you know, looking through keywords within the email, like they have access to the email. And sometimes they help me with grammar and shit if they have time, but there'll be times where like things are kind of messy. But usually like it's only good grammar stories that tend to get picked just because they're easier to kind of quickly decipher. When I do it for catnip, yeah. Fucking bury my face in that shit. Horror on the Rocks, welcome back for 11 months. Says, who did the ghost take on a date? His ghoul friend. Alright, you're banned. Just kidding. That's good. You've done stuff with Jay Nightmares. He's a good dude. Yeah, he's. I don't know. Like those Japanese stories that he provided. It was so cool because it was like, they were like Reddit stories, but like from Japan, which immediately, for some reason, being a weeb, you know, in spirit, feels more fun. And they were really good stories. And yeah. Ever thought about doing collaboration with Mr. Nightmare? Yeah, absolutely. I would love to. I just think he's a hard one to get a hold of, and you know, I don't know how people go about that, and you know, there's really no incentivization for him to collab with me per se, I guess, like for him to go out of his way, because I don't think he reaches out to anybody. He's probably just like fucking around with real estate or something right now, or in like investments, because he's a pretty quiet guy overall in the social media space, or he's just living his life. Maybe he even works like an actual job and just doesn't give a fuck. But yeah, I would like to work with him. It'd be fun. Just to say I did. Just be like, holy shit, after all these years, finally worked with fucking Mr. Nightmare. You'd be my agent. Yeah, what's the terms for agency? I mean, if you can organize it, I would give you money. Joel, we're going to split the bill for you to read the entire story on helium. What's it going to cost? I'm not rich. I really want it. I don't know. I feel like, wouldn't I pass out if I was just inhaling helium the entire time trying to read? Maybe smoking drugs. Yeah, you never really know what people's lives are like outside of their YouTube world. They could post a scary stories video, then immediately go to a crack den, and then about a month of just like straight benders. It's like, oh fuck, I'm out of money, better post a new Reddit thing. You'll be my bodyguard. 6. So I got an agent, I got a bodyguard. I should be doing movie trailers. In a world. Do they even have like narrators for movie trailers anymore? Is that still going on? Am I interested in art? Yeah, I love art. It's pretty baller, dude. Okay, where even was I? What story was that? That was story 5? Yeah, that was story 5. So now we're on story 6 of 8. I'm his bodyguard. No pictures. No pictures of the chat. Did you ever find out what that noise was that time you heard something upstairs? It stood in my head. Yeah, I never did. And I still have the painting in my house. And it was really weird because we watched creepy videos that one time after a stream or whatever. Like we watched some scary ghost videos or whatever, and then I went upstairs and turned on the hall light to walk back to my room, and the one fucking light started like flickering, dude. And it's been doing that for the past few nights, clearly because like the light's dying or whatever, but the timing was just so like uncanny. I'm like, god damn it, sitting there watching creepy videos and then this shit happens, and I'm like, nope. Is it weird out of the 1 million subs only about 500 or 600 people join the lives? Yeah, I mean, whenever I look at the notification things, you come to see like only about 3,000 to 4,000 people usually come through the stream. So I started around 9 p.m., a little after. It's been almost 2.5 hours. So based on those numbers from how long the streams are going, it seems as if though the people that are notified tend to be similar to the amount of people notified for new videos. And so I think it generally comes down to just YouTube's notification systems kind of bringing in a lower amount of people. Because obviously also streams are just different too. It's not like I'm posting a deep web video and everybody's stoked to see it and it's creating a lot of like push. But like a stream is something that is very niche and like not a lot of people know if it's going to be good or not. Will they like me? Will they like just sitting me like interrupting most of my stories nonstop? It's if they are using the same type of notification system for videos that they for streams, then it's going to be probably a low number, which is unfortunate. My 2 favorite things in the world are my dog and hiking. I hike all year round for the most part. Every season brings out a different aspect of nature that I love. My favorite time I hike is right now though. I love that September into October season. It's chilly but not cold. The scenery is beautiful and not dead yet, and the best part is that nobody is ever around during this time of the year. I live in a popular tourist area during the summer, and once Labor Day comes and goes, it's like somebody shuts the door to the town, and I absolutely love it. I work from my computer at night, so I try to get outside with my dog every day. dog out at around 10 a.m. and started hiking into the woods behind my house. It's mostly just a forested area surrounded by a large creek. I don't actually know if it's a private property or state property, but all of us who live over there by the creek hike these woods, and nobody ever says anything. When we were walking down by the water, my dog started to growl, and she started to become irate. This attitude is not like her at all. I tried to calm her down, but she just kept growling and whimpering, and while I was trying to calm her down, a man just ran by us, ran through the creek, and then stopped on the other side of the water. I froze for a second, just out of sheer shock. It scared the heck out of me. Also, it's not like the creek was a puddle. The water was moving fairly quickly, and this dude just jumped in and ran through it. I didn't know if he saw me, so I tried to hide behind some bushes with my dog. She was growling, but she was quiet enough that there was no way someone would hear her on the other side of the creek. I peeked through these bushes, and the man was still standing on the other side of the creek, except he was very clearly staring right at me. I wasn't sure if he was... Did Pretty puke again, or was Sunday the only time? He doesn't puke every day, but sometimes I think he uses his dry food to create a, like get a hairball out of his belly. Like, he's not one of those cats that like pukes up a straight hairball. He either like licks himself and grooms himself and then goes and eats, and then uses the food to kind of grab whatever the fuck he wants out of his belly to throw it up, or he'll just throw up like bile, just like cat. But I guess that's pretty normal, just the throwing up of cats, right? Shanus, welcome back for 17 months. Says, I'll be your manager. I need something to do being retired. Lol, hope everyone is doing great. Hugs to you and the fuzzy one. Thank you. Yeah, I don't really know what it entails to be someone's manager, but hey, if you can make connections with people, if whatever, have at it. I feel like people have to entice me, Oh, the stream disconnected and reconnected 3 minutes ago. I didn't even realize that. That's weird. Jaeger on ice. Interesting. Like a frosted mug or just straight ice in there? I wasn't sure if he wasn't looking at me or just in my direction until he decided to speak, and it was like some nightmare come to life. Now in this low voice he says, "I see you." And I ignored him at first, and then he said it again, and this time he just kept repeating himself. "I see you, I see you, I see you." And in case it's not obvious, I was paralyzed, afraid. I continued to try and peek through the bushes. It was clearly some middle-aged man. He wasn't super tall, maybe like 5'6" or something, a little round in the belly, but he wasn't fat. And then in a blink of an eye, he starts rushing towards me. He sprinted across the creek, splashing water everywhere, and my poor dog was going insane at this point. And fight mode kicked in, and I decided to stand up and step to this guy. Now when he was inches from me, I puffed out my chest and he just stopped. Stopped dead in his tracks. He was so close that I could have hugged him if I wanted to, and he was smiling so big, and I'll never forget those disgusting yellow teeth. And before I could say or do anything, he leaned in a little closer to me and shouted at the top of his lungs. Not just like an ah scream either. It was this blood-curdling loud scream. And after the scream, he started to laugh, and then ran back across the creek and basically just stood there again, now laughing. The reception in the woods is spotty, but thankfully I had enough service to actually call somebody who is a good... Oops. Do you do anything to protect your voice like singers do, like drinking olive oil? No. Thankfully, narration doesn't, like, take that much out of my voice, I guess. You know what's funny about the stream disconnect thing? Is that when it happens, there's like a big drop-off of, like, viewers, and I sometimes wonder if that's, like, YouTube's way of trying to clear out people who are not active or whatever. But I also kind of wonder if YouTube would be incentivized to bring people to the streams if I ran ads during the streams. You know what I mean? Like if there would be like something in the system where it's like, if you run ads, more people will be notified because there's like an incentivization on their end to make money. But I also don't know if that's true or not at all. I mean, it's no big deal. I'm happy with you guys being here, honestly. Someone murdered a flock of geese a mile away from your home. It's a conspiracy. Yeah, everything's a conspiracy. Yeah, how did they murder a bunch of them? Did they just, like, spray gas? Geese gas? Throat massage, yeah. Reception is spotty in the woods, but thankfully I had enough service to call the sheriff, who is a good friend of mine. I decided to stay close to the man until the sheriff arrived. I didn't know if this man was dangerous, and I didn't want him running around the woods behind my house. The sheriff arrived several minutes later, and thankfully I wasn't as deep into the trail as I thought. He arrived with 2 other officers, and they slowly approached the man. They weren't aggressive at all, and they were just trying to talk to the guy. And he must have felt threatened, though, because, just like his abrupt charging of me, he actually tackled the sheriff, which prompted the other 2 officers to take him down. He continued to scream for I don't know how long, pretty much for the moment that the... He continued to scream for I don't know how long, pretty much from the moment they handcuffed him to the moment he got in the car. But it was really sad, honestly. The man didn't have an ID, and the only thing they found on him was some knife. Like one of the knives that you would have in a kitchen set or something. He didn't know his name, where he was from, nothing like that. I mean, maybe he was withholding it, and I don't know exactly what happened to the guy. And I think they called the state, and he was relocated to some institution that could actually help him. And since this literally just happened, I really don't have any new information. If I find out anything, I'll write some update about the man and who he was and where he came from. Now, this is a small town, and everybody knows everybody. So whenever this guy... Now, this is a small town, and everybody knows everybody. So, wherever this guy came from, he was clearly some outsider, and it's unknown yet if he was actually using, but even if he was, I don't know if the sheriff would... The Sherbert. It's unknown yet if he was using, but even if he was, I don't know if the sheriff would share that information with me anyway. But what do you guys think? Do you think this was just some homeless guy who wandered into the woods that day and I by chance just ran into him? Or maybe something weirder? I'm just happy I caught it when I did and not in the middle of the night, and more importantly than anything else, I'm happy my doggo was completely unharmed. Kind of fucking hate the term doggo. Just like had enough of it. I'm a doggo. Like I get it. It's, your dog's cute. I don't know. It's fucking. Just say dog. Just say dog, please. It's eggplant season. Just made some bomb ass caponata with fresh tomatoes from my garden. Eggplants? You mean wiener emojis? I hate it when people say doggo. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I get it. It's cute. But, like, sometimes it's said, and I just, like, especially in the context of, like, Reddit, and I just feel like, ew. The word Delulu kills me. Yeah. Especially whenever people like openly are just like, I'm a little Delulu. You should be institutionalized is what you should be. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. Everybody's so easily influenced, you know what I mean? You can just come up with a new word. Like that song is schmegma, dude. I don't know. Maybe it'll catch on. Kind of like when they said that song's fire. You just hear something enough. If you guys ever send a song in for me to listen to, I'll just say it's schmegma, and then eventually it will catch on. Dude, that song is fucking schmeg. Schmeg Griffin. What's the Salulu for the Delulu? That song is schmegtastic. Every year around this time, I take a week or so off to work in peanut. I don't want to read anymore. I wish we could all go into maybe like a snow globe. But the snow globe is like filled like a field full of flowers, some rolling hills, like the background of like a Windows, screensaver. And then we could just like fly. We could fly there, dude. We could just jump in the air and like be like super low gravity, and we're like, whoa! I don't have to read any more fucking stories. Yeah, baby. Is this the last one? No, this is the second to last one. Every year around this time, I take a week or so off of work to plan some solo activities to clear my mind and try to manage and reset my anxiety. One night I might order a pizza and binge some of my favorite horror films, or I might go to a local farm and pick some pumpkins and apples. One thing I make sure to do every year is go for a hike. I take time to enjoy the fresh air and see the trees as they go from green to orange, yellow, and burgundy, and I usually frequent the same trails and areas, but 3 years ago, I had a fellow outdoor enthusiast recommend a hike about 45 minutes from my home. He was very honest and a transparent person that this was... What? What's the deal with schmegma? He was very honest and transparent that this wasn't a marked trail. He said that there was definite signs of frequent foot travel though, but he had placed some markers when he went and suggested that I bring some as well, just for safety and to make sure that I wouldn't get lost. I decided to venture it alone, but made sure that my parents and significant other at the time knew that I would be hiking just in case I did get lost or they hadn't heard from me. My friend, who we'll just call Justin, told me specific instructions including mile markers of where I could find the entrance to the forest and recommendations where I could leave my car. I found what I thought was the right area and put the rest of my I don't hate my job. I love my job. My job that's not really a job. I need something different from time to time. I don't know, something that tickles my fancy pants. My friend, who we'll call Justin, told me specific instructions, including mile markers of where I could find the entrance to the forest, and recommendations of where I could leave my car. I found what I thought was the right area, put on the rest of my gear and threw my backpack on and headed in. I could see what Justin mentioned, and although there was no official signage that was a clear path amongst the dirt and grass that could help me guide you or... What? The fuck is that shit? I could see what Justin mentioned, and although that there was no official signage there... They forgot a comma. I hate when people forget commas. It just seems like one big sentence. One big run-on bullshit. You're like Jack the Pumpkin King. You need a change. This is true. I need to go find something else. Perhaps go to... Candyland. Is this a cult? It is, lizard. I could see what Justin mentioned, and although there was no official signage, there was a clear path amongst the dirt and grass that could help guide you on your way. I brought small flags to mark my path that had small crosses on them. I did notice some other markings, but nothing else I could attribute to a pattern that could help me find my way back. I began walking slowly, admiring the foliage, the air, and all of nature around me. And before I knew it, I had spent an hour and hadn't moved very far at all. I decided to press onward, making sure to mark my path and acknowledge any major milestones along the way. I tried to put my markers near big trees or logs to make it obvious on my way back, though. I remember specifically thinking about my current problems in life and how they were affecting my stress levels. I tried to use nature as a way to move past them and identify positive next steps to kind of help solve them. And before I knew it, I was becoming both mentally and physically fatigued. I decided that I would sit for a few minutes, have some water and a snack, and head back to my car. When I was sitting and having some sips of water, I noticed that everything had gone silent. The humming and buzzing of nature had ceased, and I made a noise out loud to make sure that I hadn't gone deaf. I heard that sound that I made, and in that instant, I heard the other sounds around me suddenly pick back up again. I remember thinking to myself how weird it was, and that I needed to chug some water to make sure that I wasn't dehydrated. My walk back began pretty normal. I was seeing the flags that I had posted to mark my way back from the trail, and after each one I remember the landmark and could gauge how far I was away from the exit. But after about halfway, I started to become confused or misremembering. The flags were now in locations where I didn't remember placing them. One was now stuck to a tree, and one directly after that was smack dab in the middle of the path. I tried calling back to my memory, and I wasn't certain that I had placed them anymore. And I wasn't certain I hadn't placed any markers in these locations. Is that a double negative, or what the fuck is that? Hey, SR with the TR. Thank you for the 2. This is Tim Burton themed Halloween party Saturday. You're invited. Thank you, Sarah. I would honestly go. I would. I tried calling back to my memory, and I was certain that I hadn't placed any markers in these locations. I didn't know what else to do but continue to press forward, eyes wide open, looking for any marking that was familiar that would give me some reassurance. But the more that I traveled, the less familiar things seemed. I looked out my phone and I took out my phone and pressed unlock and the car alarm on the APP to my vehicle. I couldn't hear anything. It wasn't that late in the day, but for those of you reading this, you know it can be much darker in the forest than it is outside. I noticed that the frequency of my markers were picking up. They seemed to come one after another. After about another 15 minutes of walking, there were 3 markers, right after one another, that seemed to be sitting outside of a big rock covered in moss and leaves. However, as I got closer, I noticed that it wasn't a big boulder. It was actually something resembling a little shed that had been overgrown with vegetation. As I realized what it was, I slowly started backing away until I heard a noise. It was a loud crack followed by a faint squeaking. The door to the shed had opened, and all I could see was a hand, or more specifically a finger, making a motion like it was gesturing me to come closer. I immediately turned in the other direction and booked it as fast as I could. I ran for a good 10 to 15 minutes. I sat to catch my breath and then tried to use my phone again to see if I could hear my car. Thank God, I could hear my car alarm ever so slightly. I made my way towards the sound as it got louder and yeah, I was giving, like, I don't understand that. The door opened and just a hand kind of creaked out, like, come closer. Like, what? No other person presented themselves in that process? Was it just like a disembodied hand connected to like blackness? Like, I don't understand. It's fucking shit, stupid. Hey, Elizabeth Knapp with the big 20 buckaroo says, Sunday morning I was sleepwalking and tripped and fell. I spent 6 hours listening to your content in the ER. Oh my God, finding out that I have several broken bones. Found out today I need surgery. Let's Read will carry me through this. Oh my God, Elizabeth. It's fucking crazy, dude. I'm sorry to hear that. That's actually terrifying to think that, like, you can just, like, wake up totally uncontrolled and, like, walk and then get hurt without even knowing that you were awake. Did you wake up, like, to being hurt? That shit's crazy. But thank you for the 20, and I hope you feel better soon. I sat to catch my breath and then tried to use my phone again to see if I could hear my car. Thank God I could hear my car alarm ever so slightly. I made my way towards the sound as it got louder and louder and finally found it. I immediately got into it, locked the doors. Locked the doors, and got onto the road. I drove until I came across the first rest stop and put the car into park. I tried to make sense of what happened and what I experienced. I still to this day don't quite know how to process it. My only rational explanation is that someone found my markers and tried to play some joke on me, or perhaps it was someone with more sinister intentions. Part of me even thinks that I could have been under so much stress that I may have... Hey! God. Pradeep scratching the shit out of everything. Part of me thinks that I could have been under some... What are they talking about? What, like, fucking hand? Part of me thinks that I could have been under so much stress that I may have imagined seeing the gesturing finger, although I have no history of hallucinations. Either way, I don't hike alone anymore and always make sure to stick to public and well-established trails just in case. Either way, I don't hike alone anymore and always make sure to stick to public and well-established trails, just in case. Alright, that was the second to last story, so I'm gonna go take my magnesium and I will be right back.
intimately knows this. They're planned, people. These are demons. Just like the Bible says, it's basically an intergalactic invasion into this space through people. I'm telling you, it's what all the ancients said, it's what they warned of, it's what we're dealing with. They're demons. They're frickin' interdimensional invaders, okay?
Alright, I'm back. I was talking to my friend. Oh, man. Magnesia, yum. Dude, thank God I'm not in the fucking fitness YouTuber realm. Those people's lives just look fucking rough. Mainly just because it seems like almost 100% of them have no loyalty to one another at all. There's no honor amongst thieves, it appears. But they all just seem like pretty much willing to throw the other ones under the bus at any given time. But I'm going to be the first to stand up and say that I support Liver King. I'm on his side. He didn't do anything wrong, and I think he's natty still. Mag Snoozium. Alright, last motherfucking story of the evening. We hath arrived at it. Also pretty exciting, I got a sponsorship with a wine company called Bright Cellars. Cellars. And so that's kind of cool. We've got a bunch of fucking wine delivered to my home. I normally don't ever have any alcohol here at all, so it's kind of interesting to have like 6 bottles just like ready to rock and roll. Say hi to Victoria. Hello, Victoria. How are you? Is she a fan of Alex Jones? What happens if I miss a dose? What, of magnesium? I mean, magnesium is just what I take to help me fall asleep. It's not like a prescription or anything like that. Robin. I shoot footage of it this time. Yeah, I'm sorry. We'll have to clarify that with them. I'll shoot some footage with my 420p iPhone. White girl wasted. White wine wasted. Did you get more red, white, or rose? I would say a lot of it, a couple of it was rose and some white wine. Not, there was, well actually there, it's kind of a nice mixture of stuff to kind of just give it a whirl. I do enjoy wine, honestly. Everybody say hello to Robin. Kiss his feet for me, because he does a lot for us. Did you get in your pump? I did. Yeah, I did bench today. It's kind of a weird thing, like, so like week 1 will be 5-5-5. Week 2 will be 3-3-3. Now for some reason during week 2, I always struggle with that last 3. So like last week 2, I was supposed to do 255 for 3 on the bench, and I got 2 and missed the third one. But then week 3, sorry, it's 5-3-1. So you finish with like a heavy 1, and the heavy 1 was supposed to be 260. And I got the 260, but it's always just funny, like almost every week 2 I get to and miss the last 3, but then when I get to like week 3 and hit the, the heavy 1, I always hit the heavy 1. So it's like I'm still making progress, but it's just like such a weird thing. Do I really eat the food from Cook Unity? I do, yeah, it's fucking good. Especially since I can put it in the air fryer. I feel like I got... Hold on a second. Sorry, it's taking me forever. I feel like I got like a weird bug bite. No. That's strange. It'd be so funny if, like, I don't know, like a news organization was like with Dan Rather. Dan Rather just like stopped his presentation and was like, hold on a second. He like sits on the ground and he's like, I feel like I got a weird bug bite. All right. What's up, Lucas? How you doing? Good to see you. Thanks for subscribing. How does air fry things? That's crazy. You're talking crazy talk. I know. You just gotta use global warming to your advantage, man. All right. I generally will always despise hiking and being in nature. I've never been overly fond of nature, and I'm a snob and I'm not afraid to admit it. I hate being too hot and I hate being too cold. My friends literally call me Goldilocks because they say everything needs to be just right or I'll make a scene, and they're right. But hiking is the worst, and trust me when I tell you, I have my reasons. Years ago I dated this guy. His name was Brad, and I loved the guy. He was this big outdoors type, and it took a lot, but I opened myself up to that stuff so I could do more things with him. I hate to admit this, but I actually started to enjoy some mild hikes. The type of hikes that real hikers would just kind of laugh at. These types of hikes were perfect for me. A few hours outside, nothing too intense, and then I could go home and sleep in my bed at night. About a year into our relationship, Brad begged me to hike this one trail with him on his birthday. I agreed because, like I said, I was starting to come around to the whole outdoors thing. I was a little nervous because his birthday was at the end of... Haters, 10 locks, welcome back for 1 month, says long time no see, Joseph Bartholomew III. I recently got back into your stories and started to binge, and I'm enjoying it so far. Thank you so much. You're welcome, my friend. Good to see you back. It has been a long ass time. You can't just leave us like that. We've been asking about you for years. You went to get cigarettes and milk. You went to get cigarette milk. They should just make that for dads. Just like milk that tastes like cigarettes. Like nicotine milk or something. Just to kind of cover all bases. So they don't get lost in the convenience store all the time. I was a little nervous because his birthday was at the end of October and we ran the risk of it being pretty cold, which I wasn't a fan of in case he didn't get the message yet. He assured me that the hike was an easy one and it wouldn't be that cold. But he was wrong. His birthday came and it was nasty out. The fog was so thick that you could literally barely... Wait. If it was foggy, how the fuck was it cold too? Is it ever like freezing and foggy at the same time? The fog was so thick that you could literally barely see in front of your face. It was a mixture of wet snow and rain, and I was miserable. We started the hike anyway because I was trying to be a good girlfriend, you know? And I realized a little too late on the hike that this was not some easy hike, and Brad was looking to push me to a new limit, and I was pretty angry. We were walking on this tight walkway, and my foot got caught in something, and I fell. I didn't just fall, though. I stumbled badly to the bottom of this pretty steep cliff. I was like a bowling ball tumbling down, and it hurt terribly so. My leg was definitely broken, and I, at that moment, was panicking because I didn't know what to do. I could hear Brad screaming from above, but I couldn't answer him right away. Finally, I shouted up to him and explained what happened. I remember just being happy that I was alive, and he told me to stay put and that he was going to go get some help. Like I could have just I hate the way that this is written. Like I hate like people who just sit there and tell you how much they hate shit. I really don't like this and that. I only like things a particular way. I only like... Has anyone ever told you to just shut the fuck up? I'm not sorry, I feel like I'm being mean to this person, but... God, dude. Like how can people make it through their entire life being annoying and nobody has ever just like, stop it, just stop doing what you're doing. It's bad. It's not good. Have you seen this, Dad? Like I could have moved somewhere anyway. The pain was horrible, and it seemed like it was getting worse. Not long after he left, it occurred to me that we were already pretty deep into the hike. It was going to take him a while to get back, find cell service to get help, and then somehow the help would have to get to me. I started to cry because it all just seemed so impossible. And the time that I fell, the only movement I made was pulling myself to a tree and sitting against it. My watch broke during the fall, so I had no idea what time it was. It felt like a long time had passed at that point, and due to it being late October, stay put, and he drives away. Yeah, he's out of there, dude. I wouldn't fucking blame him. He's like, this is my chance. Leave her to the fucking wolves, dude. It felt like a long time had passed, and due to it being late October, the sun started to set. I got so cold that I almost forgot about the pain. If you think this all sounds bad, wait until I tell you how the story gets even worse. And once it started getting dark, it got dark fast. It was nearly pitch black. Thankfully, I did have a flashlight that I could shine to the cliff when I heard voices, if I ever... What? Is this English? Thankfully, I did have a flashlight that I could shine to the cliff when I heard voices, if I ever heard them. What? What does that phrase even fucking mean? Was that like... I'm thinking what they were trying to say is, thankfully I did have a flashlight that I could shine to the cliff, comma, when I heard voices, if I ever heard them. Like, what? Like, is the if I ever heard, like, is that insinuating, like, if I ever done hear voices in the past, I goddamn heard them in that moment. Oh, like if they heard voices, they'd be able to shine the fucking light at the cliff to see if people were there. Well, that's right. It almost made it seem like they heard voices in like the span of like half a sentence. Thankfully, I did have a flashlight that I could shine to the cliff when I heard voices, if I ever heard them, though. At this point, I didn't think anybody was ever going to come. While I was sitting in there in pain... Fuck. While I was sitting there in pain, I started to hear something that I was hoping was just my imagination. It sounded like a low growl. I almost felt like I could feel the vibration, and I turned on my flashlight, and up ahead, I saw 2 glowing eyes. I turned it off and just started to sob. It didn't matter what it was. Whatever eyes I just saw was something that was most likely dangerous. The growling was clearly getting closer. I could feel the footsteps on the ground. Even in the darkness, I was able to see what was only a few feet away from me. It was a large black bear. I didn't know the rules for bears. I didn't know if I should stay still, or if I should scream, or if I should just flail my arms around in the air. And I ultimately decided to just sit there and whimper. I remember accepting death. I was already in so much pain, and the bear got close enough that I could feel its breath on my cheek. I could smell its breath when it growled. I kept my eyes shut, waiting for my inevitable doom. I know people talk about all the time how... Why don't I just... I feel like the black bear is gonna come up and probably lick her face. Get the sweet, sweet makeup off of her. I know people talk about all the time how scary certain events in their lives are, but let me tell you, almost nothing can compare when you're stuck at the bottom of a cliff at night with a broken leg and a bear practically standing on top of you. The bear stood there for several minutes. What the fuck is wrong with me? The bear stood there for several minutes. The growl eventually turned into heavy breathing, and the bear eventually sat down, and I could feel it panting on me. I was trying to imagine that it was a giant dog sitting there, but it wasn't helping. Then the bear got up and walked away. I heard the steps get further away, and I finally breathed my first sigh of relief. And not long after, I heard a vein of... Then, the bear got up and walked away. I heard the steps get further away, and I finally breathed my first sigh of relief. Not long after, I heard a faint voice coming from the top of the cliff. I started shining my light up towards the wall. They went a little too far, They came back to where I fell and shone down those powerful floodlights, and 2 guys rappelled down, and it was almost like something out of a movie. The next several hours were not pretty. They put my leg into a splint, basically made a makeshift pulley and then lifted me up the cliffside. Every movement felt like the worst pain imaginable. I eventually made it out of the woods and the hospital where they confirmed my broken leg. And it wasn't long after this that I broke up with Brad. I decided in the hospital that I was done with the outdoors. I had my brush with death, and I'm good. I don't know why that bear basically ignored me. Maybe it was pity. I'm happy I'm alive to tell this story and tell you firsthand that if you don't think you're capable of completing a certain hike, know your limitations and back out. You may not be as lucky as I was. Do bears do that? Like, I have like a feeling that a black bear might not be territorially aggressive, but I also kind of surprised that it just didn't rip her throat out. Haters with the 5 says this is why I reread my prompts to make sure it's readable, especially if the prompts are very long. Please, I don't understand why not bring a gun for camping. Yeah, it's true. You could shoot your leg back into place. Yeah, I don't know. I guess black bears are kind of weird. Like, I always hear like the mama bears can be very aggressive, but they tend to give you a lot of chances, I guess, prior to like freaking out on you about their kid. Some would say, I heard someone say sometimes they do circles around you, like large perimeter circles, prior to coming in to fuck you up. But as far as male black bears go, I know sometimes they do fake, like fake charges, and sometimes you can scare them away pretty easy, like they're pretty skittish. But I feel like I honestly don't know how, if you were laying there like that and it just came up and kind of sniffed you and sat down. That would be pretty funny. Why not hobble with your good leg and walk back with... Well, I think because they were down in like a pit or whatever. Yeah, she was just stinky. She smelled. She wasn't worth eating. Alright, let's read this outro here, my friends. Somebody think of something funny to say at the end. Hey friends, thanks for listening. Click that notification bell to be alerted of all future narrations. I release new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 p.m. EST. And there are super fun live streams every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday night. I'd love to see you there. And if you got a story, be sure to submit them to my subreddit r/letsreadofficial or over email, and you might even hear your story featured on the next video. And if you want to support me even more, grab early access to all future narrations and bonus content over on Patreon, or click that big join button to hear about the extra perks offered for the channel. And check out the Let's Read podcast, where you can hear all of these stories in big compilations and save huge on data, located anywhere you listen to podcasts. All links in the description below. Thanks so much, friends. And remember, don't forget to drink your cigarette milk. Well, friends, don't teach your baby TM26. What's TM? I'm kind of curious now. I wonder if ChatGPT would know what TM26 is. What is TM26? Technical Machine 26 in Pokemon series of video games. TMs or blah blah blah. Specific move associated with TM26 can vary with different Pokemon games, as the move assignments can change from one generation of games to another. To determine the move taught by TM26 in a particular Pokemon, we need to... Blah, 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 blah. Shut the fuck up, ChatGPT. Fucking waste of time. TM26. 26. Where is it? Man. Thai male, 26 years old. That's weird. Huh. I have no clue what it is. Cigarette cereal. Alright. Anyways, thanks for being here, guys. You guys rock. Thanks for hanging out. Unfortunately, I can't do scary videos because I gotta go to bed and sleep and feel normal. But I promise I will get these hiking stories up and ready to rock and roll for tomorrow, 7 p.m. EST, same time, same place. And then up on Patreon, early access. It's only $1 a month over there for early access, and you can do a free trial for a whole ass, I think a whole week or more, maybe a month. I don't even remember. I'll TM26's earthquake. Okay, thank you. That's funny. Well, you guys are awesome. I hope you get some good sleep or have a great day wherever you are on planet Earth. And I'll be back streaming on Thursday night. We'll see you then. And yeah, follow me on Twitter at Let's Read Creepy to be kept up to date when I go to live, or also hit that notification bell over here for new videos and new lives. Would love to see you in future streams. I hope we can keep having fun. Follow me on Instagram at letsread.official for the gram. Alright, friends. Appreciate you, and I will see you again very schnoon.